Recording in progress.
Thank you, Greg. I will call the meeting of the Town of Essex Select Board for Monday, May 20th to order. Agenda additions or changes? Is there anything from staff?
None from staff.
Anything from board members?
I was just going to ask if the Town of Essex has ever put on their agenda items for next agenda?
Many years ago, I remember us trying a couple of different things. One, I think, was kind of an upcoming work plan. Another time, I think we tried to identify stuff that might be on the future agenda. We didn't find a great way to do it. It was, things change, things can be unpredictable. There sometimes would be something that we would absolutely know was going to be on there, but a lot of times it was kind of in flux.
Okay. I was just curious.
But items that are in the read and file are often there because we're going to reference them in the future.
Sometimes.
So
yes.
Sometimes. I guess I shouldn't say often. I should say sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And also a good note, if you would like to see anything on the agenda, just email it to Greg and
Yeah.
and take care of you.
Yeah, no, I just wondered, I'm seeing a lot more boards are including that, but we don't really have a tremendous amount of public folks that come in and want to talk about a specific thing. But I just wondered if Essex had ever had that on their agenda. Thank you.
So hearing no changes from the board, question mark, pause. There is no need to approve the agenda, so moving right along to public to be heard. Public to be heard is a time for members of the public to give comment on items that are not on the agenda, but maybe on the consent agenda. So if you are in the room, you can raise your physical hand. If you're online, you can go to the reactions button, raise your virtual hand that way. I will ask that you state your name for the record. Please be brief, please be respectful, and direct your comments to the chair. And I don't see any hands raised in the room, so I will take it over to Lorraine Zaloom online.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I noticed that one of our director positions had been posted a couple weeks ago for Recreation Director. And just a couple questions about that. When we post, I was wondering what kind of policies we have in terms of really working toward our mission of diversity of experience and diversity of education. And also wondering if, as a select board, you guys look at that as an opportunity to maybe relook at the job description and what we're trying to do. And, we just had a new town plan that passed. And then we have a new place that we'll hopefully build as well. So I'm wondering if that those kind of things might impact that position. And when we do have, what is this position that's been filled for about 17 years, I think, is that a time to have a policy that says we should look at it each time so that the select board and town management and staff are aligned?
I will go ahead and respond to that. Typically, the select board does not have input on hiring, nor do we have a policy on how that happens, as hiring is within the purview of the manager. Greg, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Yeah, Lorraine, we did have an opening. It was from a long time Parks and Rec director, Ali Weil, who'd been here for many years. She moved on. We always talk about whenever we have an opening, should we fill the same position? Should we update the job description? What other opportunities or needs do we have? We have those discussions internally. But myself as manager with my team and the relevant staff, often based on the goals of the select board, goals of staff, the community of where we're trying to go. As far as postings, it depends on the position, but generally we try to cast a wide net when it makes sense to do so, or when we think we can. In this case, we had, I can't remember the total number of candidates, but probably 15 or 20. There was an interview team that interviewed a few candidates, and Adrian Martin, who was the internal candidate, was selected as the Parks and Rec director and has been appointed to the position.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. It's good to know that casting the net, as far as we did, actually brought in a fair number of applicants. That's a positive thing. And in terms of looking at data and what we're trying to do, hopefully there's some at least looking from HR at that in terms of what we're trying to do. And are we attracting the right applicants in terms of trying to diversify experience in what we bring in? And then, yes, Chair, there certainly I hear you on town manager about it's under his purview. However, in our charter, there is a position. I think it's the chief, and I think the fire chief maybe still, and the police chief, and maybe even the town clerk is still under. It needs consent from the select board, and so that's why I bring it up, because when I look at a position like the rec department, that really can be strongly revenue bearing, and something we want to bolster, hopefully, in terms of revenue bearing as we go out on our own. That maybe there's a couple of other departments that might do well to have a little bit more oversight from the select board in terms of future, looking at the future and making sure we're aligned. Thanks.
Thank you, Lorraine. Any other public comment either in the room or online? Lorraine, is your hand a holdover?
Yes, sorry about that.
It's okay. I do it all the time. At this time, since we are past 6:35, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 water and sewer budget and rates.
So moved.
Thank you, Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Public hearing is open on the 2025 water sewer budget and rates. Aaron, would you like to join us?
The FY 2025 proposed water budget, $1,746,629.50, has an overall cost increase of 7.1% in budgeted line items, resulting in a rate increase of 2.99%. The proposed retail water rate would reflect this increase at $6.36 per 1,000 gallons of metered use. Additionally, the minimum water charge will increase from $190 a year to $210 a year. And for this next fiscal year, there are no proposed changes to the water connection fees. The sewer budget for FY25 of $2,088,393.50 has an overall cost increase of budgeted line items of 9.2%, resulting in a rate increase of 4.8%. The retail sewer rate would be $11.43 per 1,000 gallons of metered usage. And again, as with water, there is no proposed increase in connection fees at this time for sewer. An average residential household connected to both water and sewer would see an annual increase of cost of $51.72 for the year. This is a 4.15% increase over this year's rates. A home connected just to municipal water would see a monthly water charge of $38.72. This is an increase in their annual water bill of $13.48. Billings will continue to be 3 times a year for all customers, except for the large users, which we do bill. If there's any questions, comments, I can open up my binder again here. I've got Dan here to, if there are any technical questions regarding all the finances. Leave it open to you folks.
Is there any, go ahead.
Why are there no increase in the connection fees with all that increased housing going up?
Yep. So I decided to hold off on proposing that. I wanted to have it's a capital project we have coming up for FY25. We're going to have a full rate study for the town of Essex, water and sewer, which is going to be inclusive of the fees associated with connection and development fees. So that will be coming to you folks probably later this year, in the fall or winter timeframe.
Questions, comments? Okay, turning it over to the public since this is a public hearing. Any comments from those in the audience? Comments, questions, or online? Seeing none. We good? Okay. Aaron, we do have this as a business item 7C to consider approval
Yes.
of this, so I think we're good for now.
Thank you.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing?
Thank you. Andy, is there a second? Kendall, I saw your hand. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay. Public hearing is closed. Next up is our consent agenda.
Make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Ethan, is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. Andy? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. And first item on our business agenda is to interview a volunteer to serve on Conservation and Trails, Steve Dowd. If you would come up and join us. Good evening. Good evening. Want to come on up, have a seat, and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the position.
I'm continuing my interest. I have served a term on the Conservation Trails Committee. I'm involved with everything that we do on that committee. One of the things that's most recent is I have a connection with the Center for Technology Natural Resources Program. You may have most recently had a look at our tree farm proposal. So that will come up. We'll discuss that at another time, although I'm always open to any questions or information on that. But that's certainly something that I'm involved with. Again, the Natural Resources Program, Brian Japp, we would have the capacity to be able to plant trees, grow trees for the town at a much cheaper cost. And variety. So I'm involved with the our fall and spring park cleanups. I put up posters for all that. Everything that we do, I try and be integrally involved. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Excellent segue. Question?
And thank you for visiting our booth at the town meeting. I remember our conversation. That was a good way for us to be able to communicate some of the things that we're involved with. So
Absolutely.
thank you for visiting.
Absolutely. Thanks for being there. Questions from the board?
Eminent and qualified.
I'll go.
Ian?
Yes.
I was wondering if you could share your thoughts about how you feel about what it means to be a public servant.
Well, first of all, I've taught for over 40 years, so I understand public service in that manner, not only teaching but also coaching. But and I live on Indian Brook Road, so I witness daily the enjoyment that people have going down to not only that park but our other parks, our hiking trails. I got on this committee because I knew that I wanted to contribute to the town itself. I've always been connected with that park, so for me, it's a personal way to be involved, and I try to work hard, so it's a way to actively invest.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for asking.
What are the biggest difficulties that you feel the CTC Conservation Trails Committee faces right now?
We have a very active program that involves replacing trees throughout the town. I mean, we've lost a lot of trees due to the emerald ash borer, And we're keeping track. I'm also involved with an inventory program, a statewide inventory program of trees. We're going to work on that and updating that. But I think that we actively have to have a plan for cost effectively being able to obtain some trees. We are Tree City USA. We do not have that designation for the upcoming year. All of this is going to involve, some monies to be able to plant enough trees to be a part of that organization. So I think that just coordinating, you are the source of all of our funding, and our communication with you is integral to everything that we do. But if we're going to follow through with a lot of the things that we would like to do in the conservation portion, then we're going to have to talk, and we're going to ultimately need to be able to have some funding sources. We are working and talking about a grant that might help us out as well. So I feel that, being able to grow the trees, purchase the trees, work with Public Works, do whatever we can to move our program forward, I think that's our goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethan, can
During your first term, how would you say your attendance was?
Excellent.
Awesome.
I mean, if I was not here, I try to be here personally every time. If I'm not here, then I'm involved with a Zoom meeting, but I make it. I come to the I come to the meetings. I'm here.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm just curious, what trail would you consider as the most highly used in Essex?
Boy, I'll tell you. Again, living on Indian Brook Road, that road's a highway sometimes with a number of people who are going down to Indian Brook and walking around there. So, I mean, we've even worked on trails that are separate from the one that just goes right around the park. But that's an active place. I've said all along too, that is a gem of Essex Town. I mean, there was a conversation, decades ago about housing and building housing down there. And I had a speech all ready to say, wait a minute, this is your gem. This park is your gem. Everyone, outside of Essex wants to get into that park. So it's highly actively used.
Okay, thank you.
anyone else? My only question for you is whether you have questions for us.
I don't, but other than the fact that I sincerely look forward to returning for a conversation and answering every question that you might have about this tree nursery. I think it's got so much potential. So I look forward to being able to be part of presenting that to you.
As far as timeline, we do have an executive session item tonight for possible appointment, but I do believe that with the vacancies that we're seeing, that we will likely do so at our June meeting.
Great.
You're welcome to stick around if you'd like,
Very nice.
but when we're ready to make a decision, a member of staff will be in touch.
Thank you for your help. Yep,
Thank you so much.
you bet.
Next up on our agenda, volunteers to serve on the Planning Commission, and the order on the agenda. First up, Paula Duke. And you'll notice some repetition. Come on up, tell us about it yourself and why you're interested in serving.
Well, I'm already on the planning commission, and one thing that first of all, I have not missed a meeting since I was appointed, and I think being there in person is important. But the other thing that I've learned is that I can't miss a meeting, because in spite of the fact that roll call is called the Friday before about attendance, it just doesn't work. Some people know the Friday before that they're not going to be able to be there, but just recently we had we had a meeting where I think there might have been one person who wasn't sure whether they were going to be able to make it to the next meeting. But other than that, nobody said that they couldn't be there. At that meeting, that person, I don't think was the person who wasn't sure, I think wasn't there. We had a resignation that had not been noticed in the announcements on Friday. 2 people canceled on Thursday morning, last minute issues. And we had a resignation that, as I said, wasn't. But anyway, if I hadn't been there, we wouldn't have even had a quorum. So I feel like I can never be absent. So that's one reason that I would like to be a permanent member, so that I don't have to fill in. I don't have to. If I need to be absent from a meeting, I can be. I think you have in front of you or you should have received my notes in the application. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions from the board?
As an alternate, how have you contributed to the planning committee? Because you're non-voting, so, right? I'm assuming.
Well,
can you vote with the?
I'm voting
Okay.
if somebody's absent.
Okay.
And since somebody's always been absent, I think there might have been one meeting that I didn't vote, but
So you've always been. So how have you contributed other than being there?
well, I have, I've been involved in town government for pretty much since I moved here in 1981. Served on the Friends of Indian Brook Reservoir Committee within a year of moving here, and participated fully in that effort to have the town purchase Indian Brook. I've been involved in a lot of different things in the town, including the Economic Development Commission. I also have a background in design and architecture, which I think gives me a perspective different than some of the people who are on the commission. There were intricacies that and basic guidelines in terms of design that the average public may not be aware of. So I can at least bring those forward. Whether they're taken into serious consideration or not is not up to me, but it's, I think, helpful to people to hear some of that. What else would you like?
That's fine. Thank you, Paula.
So I'm just curious because I saw it on your application, but are you more interested in planning or development review?
It's a really tough call for me. I'm really interested in both.
That was going to be the second part of my question is we haven't made it to that transition yet, but on the circumstances of figuring out how everybody goes where, would you be willing to work on either board until the transition, just as to what you were thinking? I saw both of them on there, so I know
without
it was in your
making a
mind.
commitment.
Yeah.
I would probably want to be on the DRB, but I would probably end up attending a lot of the planning commission meetings
Thank you.
as well.
Yeah.
Ethan, you took my question.
Sorry.
So I would just make a note that thank you for including a written aspiration part. I find that very helpful
Oh, good.
for the application. No questions.
All right, so thank you for considering the permanent position. I think that it's an important position. I guess I'd like you to share your thoughts about what it means to you to be a public servant.
The need. I really like this community, and I have enjoyed pretty much every endeavor that I've taken on representing the community. I've learned a lot, but being involved is very rewarding, personally rewarding. And it's also informative. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Paula, my only question for
Oh,
you
I'm
is
sorry.
whether you have questions for us.
I don't think so. I mean, this is all fairly fresh because I was only appointed last fall. So, is there something you wish people would ask?
No, it's just, we grill you, so
Yeah.
feel free to
Well,
ask
but
us
there are
questions.
sometimes you walk away and say, boy, I wish that applicant had asked about this, that, or the other thing. And, so if there's anything on the top of your minds that, you're curious about, I'll attempt.
Good with questions?
I'm good.
And the same goes as before. Even though we do have an executive session this evening, we likely will not appoint until June. But someone will be in touch, and you're already an alternate, so you know the upcoming meeting schedule
Yes.
for the Planning Commission.
And I plan to be there.
Thank you.
Well,
And next up, we have Ian Carroll. Good evening. Tell us a little about yourself and why you're interested.
Sure, thanks. My name's Ian Carroll. Wasn't that long ago I was before you. Got appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustments. We've been extremely busy since that time. We've had 0 meetings. Actually, I have the first one coming up in June. I'm looking forward to that one. This opportunity was presented to zoning board administrators, noting that there was somebody that was absent from the Planning Commission. And since I have been very much involved in the Planning Commission meetings since coming here before you the first time, watching the Planning Commission meetings to see if there was something that might be coming to the Zoning Board of Adjustments, I became very interested in the process. So when this became an option, I immediately submitted my name as an applicant. I've lived in this town since summer actually of 2002, right before my first daughter was born. And we bought a house on Chelsea Road that it was a gut rehab that we did sweat equity to. We brought her, she was born, and we brought her home there, lived there for the first 7 years. We brought home 2 adopted daughters to that home as well before moving a whopping 3/10 of the mile up the hill to Craftsbury Court, where we reside now. One of the things that I learned in my time as being a parent in those early ages was we had a daughter with significant special needs, and we spent a lot of time really focusing on keeping the family safe and keeping her healthy. Now that she has passed, I'm realizing the significant amount of time that we had to invest in that, and I see that I have an opportunity to maybe invest some of that time in another healthy way. I feel like jumping into something like the Planning Commission allows me, I'm super excited about the opportunities that we have before us as a town. Given the changes that are happening here, we really have a position where we can kind of create, in some ways, anything that we want at this point. And it's super interesting to see the developers that are coming in and the people who are coming in with separate ideas and how we can have that fit to what the global mission is for the town going forward. So if lucky enough to be approved, I would definitely be here almost any night. I do still have a young child at home, so I'll have the occasion that I'll have to join by Zoom, but otherwise I'll continue attending as I have been.
Great. It's from the board.
I was gonna ask him about his attendance, but it's not good. They haven't had any meetings. They're done good.
I like the way he said, yeah, they were very busy, but I didn't have any.
Oh.
I have a question. Have you read through the town plan?
I have read through parts of it. I haven't had an opportunity to read through all of it, but it is a focus of mine that it will be. So, given that I just started on the ZBA, and that was I started learning about some of the town direction through watching a lot of the select board and the planning commission meetings. So, but yes, I have it in my hands, and it will be a focus.
Great, thank you.
I did get a printout of the town.
So have you had all this free time without the meetings to go over the zoning and planning and zoning? Is it planning and zoning?
Yep, I have that binder too.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, the big one.
Yes. Yep. I have.
Because I haven't finished reading the town plan page to page yet either.
Yeah.
So.
I have read through sections of it as I'm watching some of the meetings. I'm going to those areas to try to read through and see where it's at. There's a difference for me at this point where when I would be more directly involved as opposed to just learning. I think that it'll become a higher priority.
Do you have any specific ideas that you might bring to the planning commission specifically for infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a great question. Infrastructure is definitely going to be key. Watching, even just this last planning commission meeting where there was a sketch that was presented, that was certainly a large topic right off the bat. I have some ideas about being a former Burlingtonian and someone that's lived in the high density areas. I have some ideas about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable as far as getting down to actually growth in places like the town center, which is an area that was just presented. I feel that the water water and sewage concerns that were brought up at that point are a very legitimate concern, and how we would address that. I am not an engineer. I'm a banker, a commercial lender by trade. So my job generally on my day job is to help developers fund whatever the project is, which I feel actually kind of gives me a different aspect for than others that are on the planning commission. Just understanding what the developer is trying to go through in order to get to where they want to go. But as far as ideas about specific ideas about upgrading or changes to the infrastructure, I wouldn't have one off the top of my head.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, Ian, you've heard me ask the question to others before you. So what is it? What are your thoughts about what it means to you to be a public servant?
Yeah, so similar to Steve, I coached for a long time in high school. I was a high school track coach, and I felt that while you get paid, that really is a servant. And so I enjoyed that time, and I love the idea of being part of a team. And I love the idea, in this case, in serving our town and our neighbors, in listening to what their concerns are, but also helping us, like I said before, really shaping what the next step is. And it would be an honor to me to be part of that in some way, shape, or form. So public servancy is I think it's important, and given in the light that we have such major stuff going through, I think it's helpful to have people that want to come and be involved with this. I'm one of those.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that on the board? I do have a question, other than whether you have questions.
Sure.
You just mentioned, excuse me, professionally you're a commercial lender,
Yes.
and you would be lending funds to developers for projects that could occur within our community.
That's correct.
Do you feel as though you may have any conflict of interest? And if you did feel you had a conflict of interest, how would you handle that?
That's an excellent question, and it's actually one that I asked my bosses before I even submitted the question. I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be the case. If there were any point in time where I happened to be a lender or a lender associated with a project, obviously I would have to bow out on those decisions, and I would make that known that I need to abstain. Preferably, hopefully not on a night where I'm needed as a quorum. But I would, given the agendas, we'd have that opportunity I would have an opportunity to note that before. It is definitely a concern of mine, because I would live a dual life. I can't weigh in on specifics of a client, and at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm doing right by the town. So.
I appreciate your forethought.
Yep.
Do you have any questions for the board?
No, I believe that you have an executive session this evening, and that there's a chance that we won't get an appointment until maybe June. Is that?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, then I have no questions then.
Okay, well, thank you for your time
Thank you.
and
Appreciate
your
it.
interest.
Thanks for the opportunity.
At this time, we're going to circle back around to water and sewer budget and rates. Good evening again.
Hello. So I provided a memo, a little reduced in size and length. I could go over brief summary again, or I can point you to the direction of the recommendation that we do now have, or it's recommended the select board approve the proposed FY 2025 water and sewer operating budget. And it states below all the increases in rates and adjustments that I had covered earlier.
Understanding that we did have, you were in front of us at our last meeting, we had a public hearing. Instead of the same information, I'll just move to board member comments, clarifications this time.
The only question I had is it the same as every year we have to read the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can we change that? Or is that just in the rules?
I shouldn't have said anything. I gotta sit on my hands so I don't talk when I'm not supposed to.
The official record, Ethan. Questions, comments, clarification from board members?
I like to read. I'll read it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I move that the select board approve the proposed FY 2025 water and sewer operating budget, resulting in the following changes to the rate and billing structure, and that the new rates will go into effect on all water sewer usage with the billing period starting after spring 2024 billings. Water rates and fees. Increase the water rate from $6.18 per thousand gallons to $6.36 per thousand gallons. The water initiation fee at $1,000 base fee per connection plus $5.90 per gallon per day of capacity to remain the same. Set the water minimum charge per year at $210. Interim or final billing requests at $35. For sewer rates and fees, increase the sewer operating fee from $10.91 per thousand gallons to $11.43 per thousand gallons. The sewer initiation fee of $1,000 base fee per connection plus $10.60 per gallon per day of capacity remains the same. Interim or final billing request at $35.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, was all that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Understanding that we did have a public hearing, I will open it up to see if there is any public comment on the motion. Seeing none in the room, none online. Bringing it back to the board, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is discussion potential action on Parks and Recreation silent auction fundraiser request.
That's what Adrian is on.
Oh, hey,
Oh.
Aaron took all my time.
you snuck in. I didn't see you.
I can set the table for this. So, in conjunction with our town's purchasing policy, it's required that all fundraising activities go through the select board. Recently, our Parks and Rec department was looking to put together a Get Out and Explore silent auction. I believe it's in conjunction with the July National Parks Night. We do have 2 members of our Parks and Rec department on the Zoom call as well, so they can fill in with more details. But the basics of this fundraiser is to provide extra funding within our programming fund, not in our general fund involving taxpayer money, just to help reduce fees in other areas for places where we would charge for youth sports leagues, senior programs, winter ski programs, activities like that. So looking for approval to go forward to conduct a silent auction fundraiser.
Questions from the board?
Is this going to be like an ongoing thing or a 1 week? How long is the time frame?
I believe the time frame is just within June and July. I think Jen, our business coordinator, could speak a little better to that as well.
I think they left you hanging, Dan.
All right.
Jen, are you there? Are you able to elaborate at all on the timeline?
Sorry. I got stuck downstairs. I apologize. So what was the question?
Just the timeline for the silent auction.
So the plan was Parks and Rec, National Parks and Rec Month is in July, the whole month of July. So our plan was to start the auction July 1st and then finish it up July 31st and announce any winners.
I'm curious how this fits into the overall fundraising of the department through the entire year. Is this the only silent auction you would be looking for, or have you looked at the possibility of hosting more than one?
So we actually talked about that. We wanted to do this as a yearly fundraiser since not only do we want to promote our Parks and Rec, but we also want to promote other outdoor recreation in the area or different types of parks and different types of recreational things for people to do during the month of July. We have talked about some other fundraisers that we might be interested in doing throughout the year. Nothing's set in stone. We've thrown around ideas of maybe a golf tournament or something like that. Again, a focus on recreation for people who are doing it and something that can help support our program fund, because our ultimate goal, as everyone knows, prices of everything are increasing, and we want to keep our program costs as low as possible and as affordable as possible for our community and anyone who wants to participate. So we wanted to find alternative ideas that we're thinking outside the box where we could keep raising money to keep that going for people.
That's perfect. And I will clarify that I am 100% in favor of this, but I just want to make sure that having this won't affect your ability to have more or your overall fundraising program as you go. That's all.
I guess I'm a little confused. Can you clarify that a little bit? I guess, what are you asking?
Well, some places they look at their entire funding year and they have more than one auction tied to specific things, and they have that planned out so that your customers can plan on that. So I just wondered if the department has looked at the overall fundraising potential that you have.
Yeah, I mean, we're up for doing whatever we can physically do in our small little department. We want to, if there's something that we can do, whether it's this was kind of the start for us of our fundraising, because there hasn't been a lot of fundraising done in the past since the separation. So we wanted a starting point and a jumping block for where we could start, and then kind of start to brainstorm more ideas of what else we could do for fundraising in the future.
Answer. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Is there any public comment or questions? The Ken coming up.
Hi, Ken Signorello. Just one simple question. What exactly will be auctioned off?
I've been putting my feelers out just to see what other places of business might be interested. There's a paddleboard company off Lake Champlain that would be interested. The Inn at Essex would also be interested in doing something with their spa, because even though it's indoors, it's still a type of recreation for some people. We've talked to a couple of people that have kayaking tours and tubing tours that would be interested. But we kind of held off on the green light until we talked to everyone here because we didn't want to get the cart before the horse.
Also suggest that you stop by the Economic Development Commission and possibly, we meet with the business every month and we might be able to land you a few more.
Yeah, absolutely. We're willing to work with whoever wants to help or has any suggestions for sure. But yeah, and we've kind of tried to do this broad spectrum. Nicole and I have brainstormed different places of everything from outdoor recreation to indoor recreation, and we've tried to find some stuff for kids, older adults, and seniors as well.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
There's a repeating microphone.
Any other public comment?
Somebody's got the mute.
Not seeing any online and none in the room, bringing it back to the board.
Make the motion that the select board authorize Parks and Recreation Department to conduct a silent auction fundraiser.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Which then brings us to potential action, discussion potential action, explore Essex fundraiser request.
So in a similar vein, obviously we're having our annual Explore Essex event coming up in late September, early October. In conjunction with this event, the town seeks sponsorships from local vendors, conduct raffles, have contests. We also receive in-kind support in terms of vendors reducing prices for their services. Proceeds from these activities help support the overall event. We do have $6,000 allocated within our general fund in fiscal year 25 for the event already, but these fundraising elements help to defray the overall cost, which is obviously beyond that $6,000 amount.
Questions or discussion?
I don't know if I should have said this before we started talking about the topic, but I'm not going to vote on this because I was a part of the event last year and I'd sponsored how that works.
Okay. Are you involved in this year's event yet?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. They have.
It hasn't started yet.
Yeah, but they've like reached out to see if they were gonna. I don't know. I couldn't tell you that to be truthful because my brain is a scramble mess, and they could have sent me an email about it already about returning. I don't know.
So if you're concerned about the potential conflict of interest or the appearance of a potential conflict of interest, you can recuse yourself. You have to leave the room during the discussion and
before we start the discussion next time.
You should. That's the.
So I'm gonna step out just because
Recuse
I don't
and
know
remove.
if I've already.
Okay. All right. We'll come get you when we're done with the conversation.
Appreciate it, Ethan.
Thanks, Ethan.
Be out here.
Questions, comments from board members?
So I would just ask, again, is this the only fundraising that the town will do for this event? Is this the only one?
Yeah, it's geared for this particular time frame. So there's the different aspects of it with the vendors involved and the on-site kind of raffles and fundraising.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Any comment or question from members of the public? Seeing none? Oh. Nick of time.
What can I say? Ken Signorello. So we had a presentation at the Economic Development Commission about the Explore Essex event. And my understanding was we were going to try to lessen the burden on staff by having the businesses conduct their own sort of activities as part of the passport program instead of doing raffles like we've done in the past. I see raffles is still on the list of activities. Is that just left over possibly? And maybe that's going.
Yeah, it's a different raffle. So you're thinking of the giveaway Exploraganza. So these would be like raffles. I think last year we raffled a painting my daughter painted. We raffled off, we were donated a Smugs badge. We raffled that off and we had a 50-50. They were just general fundraisers for cash. basically.
Like not part of the event like it wasn't in the
Not
past.
part of the giveaway that you're talking about.
Good.
A different.
Thanks.
Seeing no other public comment, bringing it back to the board.
I make the motion to select board authorize the town to conduct fundraising activities in relation to the upcoming Explore Essex event.
Thank you,
Second that.
Don. Thank you, Andy. Final discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And yes, please. I was just gonna say Ethan abstains, but he should probably cast his own vote.
If he's recused himself.
He's recused himself, he doesn't
himself,
vote.
So, you know, our
So
policy says you
motion
can't
carries
abstain, yeah.
401. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Our next agenda, thank you, Dan, thank you, Jen, thank you, Adrian.
You're welcome. Apologize for being late.
Yep, you're good. Our next agenda item, consider approval of select board values. Greg, do you want to introduce this one?
Right, so this is some follow-up. The next 3 items on your agenda are all follow-ups from the special work plan strategic planning session that you had last week. Sorry, a week and a half ago, on May 8th. There's just one memo for the 3, but potentially 3 different action items for them. Went through, did a lot that night on May 8th, so Marguerite was taking notes, tried to get a lot of information down there. Since May 8th, tried to go through and suggest some different wording, try to find some areas where maybe there was overlap or alignment between the different areas. Also set it up in the packet, so tried to start with the values and then assign potential values to the long-term goals, and then to kind of figure out which long-term goals where the work items fit under there. So that's kind of the very high overview of what you're looking at and what's in your packet. And I will, with that, pull up the spreadsheet and be able to share the values that you had identified and some of the rewording that you may want to consider based on the staff review. Certainly take no offense if you want to dismiss it or do your own wording, but just wanted to have something out there for discussion.
I'll go first. So I thought everything was amazing, because we were having a really hard time putting words together. But the only question that I had was, by changing the bottom from town to vibrancy and then the cohesive and connectivity, the last sentence in cohesive and connectivity, I feel should be just down with the vibrancy, rather than having kind of the same thing in 2 places.
And that was a question of, there's 8 values right now, and
Oh,
some
not
of
to
the
have them
staff
all.
suggestions would be, if you get it down to
Okay.
4, 5, 6. So
Sorry.
some of
Just
that
my
wording
ears
for
all clogged
community
up.
connections would be if you were to get rid of the vibrancy one and
Okay.
combine it with community connections.
So the yellows are
Areas where you might think about combining them.
okay.
And
Perfect.
again, just suggestions, totally just suggestions.
Somehow I didn't put those 2 pieces of the puzzle together.
So
But-
Ethan, with that, do you feel that the vibrancy, since it's mentioned in cohesive and connected,
100%.
cohesiveness and
Yeah.
connectivity, however we want to phrase it, do you feel that would fit more under
Definitely.
that one heading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just, when I was reading through them, I was like, well, that kind of is already said, so that I wasn't thinking like you guys were thinking. But yeah, the only other question I was gonna ask was about predictability, but that's pretty much covered now. That if that wording is gonna be eliminated and kind of covered under accountability, as far as what to expect from. So those are my questions. I didn't
Okay.
realize that the yellow was.
You understood the assignment.
Yeah, thank you. I read it clearly.
Other questions or feedback on the language and paring down, combining items
Yeah, I support what's been proposed, that we pare it down and use the staff suggested definitions.
Okay. Any other?
No.
The other question that I had was the community-oriented, is it clear that, should that be under cohesiveness and connectivity? As that talks about connection with people, things, vibrant community. Is, just to be clear, is that where we would put that item?
About being focused on the community's best interest, or that they're the word?
Oh, because community-oriented is discussed as part of cohesiveness and connectivity. It could also be combined into inclusivity. So I just wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Well, you already have community-oriented down in inclusivity.
True.
Right.
Okay.
So you could do that, yes.
I'm good with that, yep.
Ethan?
Do we have any, not seeing it now, but I thought I did before, but do we have about the community's best interest in there somewhere besides?
That would be under accountability.
Oh yeah, okay. I knew I saw it in there. That's it. Sorry.
So you're taking that out too, is that what you're saying?
No, it's this first sentence.
No, but I'm saying you're taking community oriented out because you're putting it somewhere else?
It's
what you're saying?
under the cohesiveness and connectivity.
Oh, I see the little black specks up there. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can see a yellow square and little black specks. I have no idea. And I can't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So,
Trying to make mine bigger, it didn't work.
yeah, the cohesiveness and connectivity talks about, the physical getting from here to there, but also connections between people, events bringing people together. Essex is a vibrant community, a joy to live in, and a desirable place to do business.
But doesn't community oriented say something about government?
Local government is focused on the community's best interests.
And is that up there?
It also talks about community's best interest, focus on the community's best interest under accountability as well.
That's why I was confused with the yellow, because I thought we were
I Okay.
Yeah, the definition went into the accountability definition, but then the word community oriented went into inclusivity, yeah. Because it says community oriented and inclusivity.
Yeah.
I think the words are all in there, but maybe they're not a straight line between them. The idea, I think, of local government focusing on the community's best interest is included in accountability. The words community oriented are in inclusivity.
Is that where we want to remove the stated value of community oriented because it is covered under inclusivity? And I say remove it, but I'm really saying remove the redundancy that exists.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just remembered my last thing that I had a question about. The last sentence in inclusivity. Did everybody else think that that was possibly appropriately written?
Might say
I just read it differently in my head than maybe it reads, but I just didn't know if it should be.
I'm thinking of changing want to need.
Yeah, I just don't know that. It just sounded to me like if you want a place to live, like have them, because some people kind of don't. You know what I mean? I just didn't know how to make that more readable.
It's a value, it's not a current state, right? So the value, we value the fact that housing should be available for those who want it.
So you should change is to should then. There should be.
That reads a lot better than is.
I think so. I'm gonna
I don't know.
ask you to finalize housing.
I just read things and I think of if I said this to a stranger, how would they think of me?
So, yeah, I mean, our goal, our value is kind of future state. So the
Right.
future state, our goal would be that housing is available. Does that make more sense?
But we can't guarantee that. We
Yeah.
can't, even if it's a goal, we can't guarantee it. But as a goal, it should be. And if we can make it possible, that's great, I think.
It should be available for those who want it. Okay.
Because by making the statement is, it means it's going to be there. Because you said it's going to, so I just.
Yeah, we do say somewhere else that we say what we're gonna do and then do what we say we're gonna do.
Sure. Any further discussion on the values?
Can I just clarify what you
Yes.
have? So accountability becomes just accountability with the same definition, not accountability and transparency.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Same head nods?
Okay. Cohesiveness and connectivity as presented.
Head nods.
Community oriented is coming out.
Head nods.
Fiscal responsibility as presented.
Yes.
Inclusivity as presented,
As amended.
as
Do-
amended.
There was a modification to the definition
Oh,
there.
housing should be available, right?
Right.
Housing should be available.
So inclusivity, yeah.
Predictability
Comes out.
comes out.
It's covered under accountability.
Thoughtful growth as presented. And vibrancy.
Covered under cohesiveness and connected. That would.
Okay.
All right, so we have 1, 2,
Accountability,
3, 4, 5.
cohesiveness and connectivity, fiscal responsibility.
On that, can we stop on that one for just a minute? Greg does point out a very good question, that it is largely focused on just capital. Should we add something in there about efficient operations or assessment of needs? He did ask the question.
Town budgets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Ethan's right. I had some similar thought of Ethan. You could read the town budgets responsibly, period,
And
or comma, and plans for the future towards capital projects.
I think if you put a comma in there, it would. I read it as I'm a bad reader, but I read like chunks. So that's how I read it. Was the town budgets responsibly, and they plan for the future through its capital project.
Oh, it's good then.
Okay, yep. Did we lose count? Lose count. He was counting them on his fingers.
I think you've got
Going
5,
through.
yeah.
Just the ones not in yellow. There were 8. We combined 3. That leaves 5. Okay. Is that what you need?
Believe so.
Okay.
Yes, public comment.
Yep, so now that we've done that work, we have 5. I'll ask for public comment. honor values.
First time I'm actually looking at this. So there's two things. I see two references to the community's best interests. And one of the problems with that, of course, is who determines the community's best interest. I'm not sure what wording might be better to thread that needle. It sort of goes in with the item above, responsiveness to any questions. I think one of the most important values that a select board certainly should have is listening to its constituents and acting accordingly. As a great example, we just had a town meeting where two ballot items passed at 87% and 75%, and that hasn't even been acknowledged yet. Not at the town meeting debrief, and there's been no guidance given to staff at this point. So I'd like to see that kind of responsiveness better expressed in these values.
Seeing no other public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for final discussion.
I just have a quick question, but didn't Don have something in there about being responsive? Or did we lose that?
I did, but it's.
Because I remember that.
Top one, on the right.
Oh yeah, right there. It was in there. Information is readily available, delivered in responsiveness to questions, concerns. Do what you're going to do and do it. Yeah, that did get lost.
Yeah, well, the last sentence,
Well, I know
town
that
officials say what they will do and then do it. Information is readily available. Officials are responsive to any questions or concerns.
Oh, it does say that. Should we add delivered in there? Yeah, I think the only thing that's missing is delivered, but if everybody's I didn't. My brain's hurting from the sun.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the responsiveness,
Yeah.
to questions, concerns, information is readily available.
It's covered there.
Okay.
What about in a timely manner?
I think that's what readily available means.
Yeah, but what does that mean to you? What is that? Readily available, is it the next day or is it 2 weeks? Is it?
Statute says how long it takes to respond to a, or how long you get to respond to a public records request. So.
I think in a timely manner may also be up for interpretation, but I personally don't see any issue with our responsive to any questions or concerns in a timely manner.
Whatever works.
Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing nods? Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Final comments or discussions, or are we ready to consider approval?
Mm-hmm.
Make the motion. Select board approve the select board values. 2024.
As amended this evening, or are you?
It'd be 24, 25.
24, 25.
As amended this evening?
As amended this evening.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Andy. Everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next up, approval of select board long-term goals. Here we have our values.
So similar idea with the long-term goals. Went through, tried to apply the relevant values that'll have to get updated based on what the work you just did a few minutes ago, but tried to show where some of these long-term goals, what values might apply. So went through, there's about, let's see, 12 long-term goals that showed up. Staff suggested some new wording. Again, no, take it if you like it, or don't. No hard feelings. Kind of just underline some stuff just to help me frame my thought a little bit about just kind of the 1-2 word category for each of these long-term goals. And then the one that jumped out in the review was the review and update policies annually. Seemed pretty similar to regularly update guiding documents, policies, and standards in accordance with a set schedule. Could even add in a review relevant and important policies annually, something like that. So, otherwise, that's what's in front of you. There were a couple items when you looked through the work items that did not show up in the long-term goals. One of them was the development review board transition. That's a short-term goal, but I just wanted to mention it. And Housing and Housing Commission had come up in values and in the long-term goals. I think there were maybe 2, maybe 3 mentions of it that weren't reflected in the long-term goals. So just wanted to point those out for consideration.
Andy, I know you have something.
Yeah, I mentioned at our last meeting that there was a binder that was given to me when I first became a select board member, and I've got it here. The first section of it is called the Select Board Policy Book. There are 55 policies in here. And so, I'm sorry I haven't shared this sooner, but some of them are 30 years old. But we do have
So it might be time for review, huh?
quite a few policies, and so reviewing every one of them every year would be painstaking, I think. And so, but we probably should look at some of them. So I guess I would agree with taking a specific action item to review all of those 55 policies every year off the list.
Well, chances are if you review some of the older ones, they may have already been replaced by others.
There's at least one, right? We have actually have an employee dress code in here, which I think we've modified to say it defers to the
town manager.
the employee guideline book or whatever we call that.
We still do have a dress code policy. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's changed in here. It used to say, in fact, for the first long time when I was elected, I wore a necktie to every meeting.
They wore ties, yeah.
Because the policy that's in this book says that male employees have to wear a necktie between October and May.
Yeah.
And so I wore a necktie between October and May until we changed the policy, and then I haven't worn a necktie since. But as my way to get the thing to change, we'll protest there. But yeah, and there actually is a board and commission attendance policy in here with a letter explaining the intent behind it as well.
So I don't want to get too far off the side, but can we get a copy of all those for the rest of the select board members?
Andy, can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, here, we'll pass it over.
I think I do have one, but yeah.
Yeah. So
This isn't the first time it's left my possession.
So I think that so yes, review relevant and important policies annually. After initial review of older policies, how's that? I mean, that way you can go back and, like you said, the stuff that's outdated, it's done and gone.
there may be a bulk that be either rescinded or
I didn't see anything in there that we want to stop doing.
okay.
But-
So understanding that this is
But that's just
our-
my opinion. Everybody
our
else could have a different
long-term
opinion.
goals, do we want to, over the next 8 years, like, review what's out there so that, if nothing else, but for awareness of what's out there, whether we can rescind them, should be updated.
8 years is a long time, Tracy.
It is, but I don't think that, is this something that we feel should be done in the next year, and how would that fit into the,
Kind of hard to know without knowing what the policies are in that book,
Yeah,
to tell you the
yeah.
truth.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, we can do it faster than 8 years, but, you know, in my question is, do we want to make it a priority over the next year? Or do we want to do it at some point within the next 8 years as a longer term goal? Ethan?
I think Kendall, did you have your hand up?
I did, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious,
Oh,
was
go ahead.
because I think I had brought up the first part, and then you had did the annually. But I wanted to just say I agree with the annually not being in there, but I also wanted to say that I don't like the wording under the one that I recommended, because I feel like we should just say, instead of it being on a schedule, or I like to reflect the needs of the community, but review relevant. I think they're all relevant and important, but to review them as they come to us. You know what I mean? Like, if I read the book, or Kendall reads the book, or any of us read the book, and we have a policy that we're like, hey, we should talk about this. Then we come and we talk about it. You know, we could do 10 of them this year if there's people that feel like they have something that doesn't make sense, and we have put it on an agenda, have a discussion, do a couple of them at a time. Don't, I'm just throwing out things there, but I don't think that we should set any standard for how we do it, other than it's all of our responsibility now to read them, and then go from concerns. I don't think, like we do certain things every year, but I don't know if I'm making sense. I just feel like if we find a problem, we should have it in there as a goal to fix it. But if there's no problems, then we probably don't need to have it as a public meeting for every single one of those policies. That's my sense.
I'm going to choose my words carefully. We as a board sit here and expect our employees, our staff, to know their policies and to follow them. And if they don't follow the policies, they are brought up through their evaluations and everything. And I personally have asked and called out a lot of the staff on specific policies that the town has. And I think it's in poor form that the select board doesn't know the policies that we enforce, and that they haven't been updated for many years, obviously. So I would consider this a policy to set a good example for the employees of the town of Richmond and the customers and all our residents, that the board knows exactly what policies we have and how they impact what we do. So that's my 2 cents. I really think it's important that we know what our policies are.
So not seeing anybody raise their hand to speak. What I'm hearing is that this should be a goal, but more in line with review guiding documents, policies, and standards to reflect the needs of the community and update accordingly.
Right.
And review relevant and important policies annually, as is our, the ones that we review every year at our organizational meeting.
Right.
Is that,
Right.
am I hearing that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very important.
Okay.
Can you say that again?
What's your first green one? Review guiding documents, policy standards to reflect the needs of the community and update accordingly. And then review relevant policies annually.
Are you gonna you're taking out important policies? It says relevant and important.
Review relevant and important annually. It's basically the same thing as. Oh, there you were on the screen. I was just looking over your shoulder. think we're good with that one. Review update, yep, so that takes care of the second green box. Is there any other input on the long-term goals that are listed here, Andy?
There's the one just below that that says maximize non-property tax revenues. We just had a discussion earlier about doing fundraisers so we can keep program fees at what was called a reasonable level. If we want to maximize non-property tax revenues, we shouldn't offer any scholarships. So that's where I'm a little not crazy about saying that we want to maximize revenues. I think it needs to be in context of the users as well. And I don't know how to reword that. I don't, you know. Because you never offer a discount to somebody. If you're trying to maximize your revenues, you don't offer a discount. And somebody will fill the class, right? I don't think that's what we want to do.
Wasn't that more about the fees that get charged,
Just says non-tax revenues.
Kendall? But I meant fees for other, Indian Brook gets charged for, but there are other things that don't. And I think that was what Kendall was trying to get at, that there was more possibility of non-property tax revenue being available. I don't know how you'd reword that, though.
Maybe we review sources of non-property tax revenues and optimize to meet the needs of the community, something like that. So that we're saying that we're looking at non-property tax revenues, but we're not just flat out saying we're going to maximize it. Because that's a capitalist thing to do.
So you review non-property tax revenues,
or review or consider non-property tax revenue sources and update practices accordingly. And update in the best interest of the community. Something like that. Because if it's in the best interest of the community to make as much money as you can out of something, then but it may not be. I mean, you also need to. I mean, that's one of the. You don't just listen to how many voices you hear. You listen to the effect of a program that you put in place. Right? Because if this helps somebody who can't afford to go to class, that's a community benefit also. Well worth the lower fee. Yeah, I wasn't really looking at it from the perspective of just charging everybody. It was more like interest and option tax, non-property sources of income.
So instead of a blanket maximize non-property tax revenues, back to something you said early on, optimize non-property tax revenues where applicable to meet the needs of the community.
Yeah, Greg had something pretty good written up there.
Yeah.
That's what Andy said. Yeah. No, that's what Andy said.
It was
And
organized.
it's what yeah.
What was the first word before? Consider. Yeah.
I think it was consider.
Consider.
Yeah, I think I did use the word optimize at one point there, but
I like consider because it's. We'll try.
That sound good to everybody?
I like it better than.
Okay.
And I just realized today that the commas with the GD was Greg asking a question. Really slow today. But
I wasn't swearing, I swear.
to go up to that one, the public safety infrastructure. I don't know if my to that was public works, fire, police. I don't think as far as water and sewer. I know it's part of public safety, but I think it's more of public safety of maintaining our roads, making sure we have a adequate and prosperous fire and police department. And
Just add in all public. Safety
so I just didn't know.
infrastructure.
Yeah, I didn't know. I figured that out a couple minutes ago.
So you weren't just thinking about physical infrastructure, but more ensure long-term support of public safety of the organizations as
Yeah,
they
right.
exist,
Everything.
organizations, departments.
From vehicles to making sure that we have staffing and adequate quarters for all of that. I don't know how to say that. I figured.
If you just take out infrastructure, then it's talking about public safety generally, right?
Is that
Because the infrastructure, I think, all comes under capital.
Right, in the capital goals. Where's the capital? Yep. Essex capital needs are understood. Yeah, so I would just like to add in a word that isn't support, but it's mine, maybe our goal to make sure that public safety is, I don't know if prosperous is the right word, but yes, we want to make sure we support them, but also that our public safety is, what others look at for acceptable level of public safety. You know what I mean?
Is robust,
Yeah.
robust public safety.
Just that way, we support them, but we also have a standard of high public safety. That's a priority to us as a goal.
Or of high quality
High
public
quality,
safety.
yeah.
High quality public safety.
And yeah, perfect. I feel like all my rambled thoughts fit into those words.
okay?
better.
That's good. That's good.
And Greg has two more at the bottom where it says the DRB and Housing Commission.
Yeah, and I guess understanding that DRB was a mandatory item on the work plan, did we want to consider having a long-term goal that was reflective of the DRB?
Yeah, I didn't really look at it because I thought it was a done deal and that wasn't
Yeah.
much we're not gonna change that.
I didn't really think the board had too much purview over those two, planning commission and DRB.
Ethan?
Yeah, I thought we had something. I thought maybe we had a law that night, but
Yeah, we did,
I thought we had something because we have thoughtful growth in our values, but I thought we had a goal that wrapped that into it also. I may be looking at it. I just don't see it.
There's improvements in multimodal transportation options,
But there's no thoughtful. Oh, thoughtful.
community
growth.
vision.
Thoughtful growth is up there.
Yeah, but it's only in one.
And I don't think there was anything specific to the Development Review Board or the Planning Commission. It was just more, the thoughtful growth value, and then the actual work item, because the transition will be completed within the coming year. So I think it's fine.
Okay.
I just think Greg called it out as something that didn't have the long-term goal that was applicable. Ethan, to your point, the DRB and the Planning Commission are identified in statute as far as their roles and their authority. So I think that's why you're not really seeing
Okay.
a long-term goal there.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Yeah, I think we had that conversation that night.
Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And the other one was the housing and the Housing Commission. For a long-term goal, I do believe that there is a work item specific to housing and the Housing Commission. I think that the feedback from the Housing Commission will shape future long-term goals, but of course, waiting to get that feedback from the Housing Commission to shape what that long-term goal would look like. Unless anybody feels differently.
I think we should listen to what they have to say. Yeah.
Agreed. I'm seeing nods. So, not hearing anything different from the board, I will turn this over for public comment on the long-term goals. Not see. Yep.
Think you were gonna get away with it? I'll just
I
focus
did
on
for a second.
Well, close. I'll just focus on one, the middle one, the fifth item down. Currently reads, expand the number of community events and improve awareness of the events. So I've become aware of the burden community events place on our staff. And you can see that even at some of the events that we have that are kind of mandated, like the annual meeting, I saw our staff have to clean up afterwards. This was upsetting to me. I've heard about the demands that Explore Essex puts on our staff at the Economic Development Commission, and we're helping out a bit now, at least. We have one member helping. So I'd like to see that item changed to read something to the effect, encourage volunteer-driven community events. That would be it.
Thank you, Ken. Board discussion on.
I don't have a problem with that.
I do. Since it was mine. I just really think that the town needs to focus on revenue involved community events. You know, we have a lot of, you know, we're gonna go over it on the next business item, but there is a lot of community events that are non-revenue driving. Right. I'm not saying every community event needs to be revenue driven, but all of those community events that are on there right now are volunteer. Yeah, there's town staff involved, but it's, you know, mostly paid position. There's volunteers throughout everything, but I really think that my intention on expand the number of community events and improve awareness of the events was for the nature of the events that the town could possibly involve themselves in, which was more in line with expanding the recreational needs. You know, it was kind of, we kept them separate because there were two really good points made that night. But that was kind of where I was coming from with the community events, was looking at events that like you know, the silent auction fundraiser that they're doing, you know, more so on the town of, you know what I mean?
Yep. So a few thoughts. We do have evaluate the community's recreation needs, make sure needs are met and funded accordingly, as well as the non-tax revenue item we discussed. I think that speaks to like the funding mechanisms or revenue generating events may fall under that item.
Okay, as long as we put community oriented on that headline, you know, we use that as a relevant value for that? Are we using relevant values, or those are just there for reference?
The values are there for reference.
Okay, so we're not gonna leave those as. I just feel like it's. We can't get volunteers to serve on our boards. How are we gonna get volunteers to make every community event we add to the town? Like we're gonna blunder the point of that goal by adding that word.
But is your point for that goal really focused on revenue generating events?
Both. You should be able to have revenue generating events that can support things like, you know, certain parades or celebrations that could then be paid for by other events. And I understand there's a lot of volunteer time that goes into those things. I just don't think that that goal should be just for volunteer, to expand the number of volunteer community events. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that's thinking that way.
So what if you, at the end of events, you also put and encourage volunteer participation?
Improve the awareness of the events and encourage volunteerism. I wouldn't base the goal on making them volunteer driven events.
So is the long-term goal more around just increasing the number that are held, or improving the awareness and expanding expanding the, I guess, like ensuring alignment with community feedback and needs, rather than just increasing the number with no, okay.
Have we ever sent out a poll to say, what would the community like to see for community events? Ever done that on the website?
We get feedback on events.
On events, but we don't ask what the community would like to see. When we did with the town plan, there's big letters on our tree. But I don't know.
It's the kind of thing covered under a recreation needs study, which we do have a plan to do, or is it not? I don't know if it's.
I don't know. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've looked at the last rec needs study.
Yeah. On this line item, I'm not crazy about having the word expand in there. I would at most want to review the number, and I think wait and you know, they're looking at the list that was provided to us at a meeting or two ago. It does include many new items on there that we've never done before. You know, a barn dance, for example, is planned for during Explore Essex, which we've never done before. So there are, you know, things that staff is coming up with and recommending, but to make it, you know, expanding the number of community events without a budget to do it, can certainly be problematic. There's no guarantee that people will be willing to pay to do some events. Why is my battery running out? I guess I'm not plugged in. Sorry. I'm you know, to say that the select board says we need to do more events, I think is I don't know if too intrusive is the right word. I think there are a lot of events on that, a lot of events on that list, and I know for a fact that the library will not want to charge a fee for anything that they do, and we can't make them.
So my my idea of these events that would be revenue driven isn't charging the person that comes to the event. Right? It's about having things like food vendors or, you know, music on Sand Hill Park and have a fenced off area where there's food vendors and other vendors there. So those people pay to be there because they're going to make money. And then it all works in to be revenue creating.
So the Essex Experience, I understand, is changing their format from food trucks to something else.
That's not the town, though.
I know. But
Anyway.
it seems that they would. I don't know if they're doing that because
Yeah.
it failed.
Well, look at Snow Farm.
What if you just put explore?
Yeah, I think it's
And or improve
review or explore, but
Yeah. Fine.
to say that we're gonna expand them, I think is
Okay. Explore, that way, Ethan, if they decide to expand, it'll be in there, so.
I was, as I'm listening, I was thinking that instead of just expanding the number of, it would be explore the variety of community events that are offered.
Yeah, I don't think that was my original
Okay.
wording. I don't think it was ever about the number of events. It was just the
Okay.
fact that the lack of events and their audiences in the town of Essex is very selective.
But I'd also like to see something like Ken said, though, to encourage volunteer participation.
So off the top of my head, improve awareness of community events, encourage volunteer participation in those events, and evaluate the variety of events which are held. I just want to get something down to
Yeah, that's fine.
react to. So I was having those thoughts in my brain, so now that they're out of my brain, feel free to throw spears.
Oh,
and
I'm good.
Poke holes in that.
I'm all good.
Good for folks?
I'm more comfortable with that. Yeah.
Okay, seeing nodding.
Staff okay with that?
Thank you. Right, do we want to discuss more long-term goals or move into action approval of those as amended this evening?
Better move on, because an awful lot of yellow on the next one.
So do we want to approve these?
Good question.
Is that what you're that's what you're
Yep.
asking?
If
Not
we want to continue editing, or
the further changes people want to suggest.
Yep.
Make the motion the select board approve the long-term goals for future year 24-25.
amended this evening.
End of this evening.
Ethan,
Second.
is there a second? Thank you, Andy. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Would anyone like to further discuss those? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. And now moving along to the actual work plan for fiscal 2025, which would start, well, those in progress. Fiscal year 25 starts July 1 of this year. Back to the actual packet. Computer doesn't seem to want it working. similarly, there were some follow-up items, the GD highlighted items, with input. And there was mention of the numbers based on the ranking. I want to say there were 12, 13, and 12.
That sounds right. Something like that.
In the memo. So I want to discuss not only the questions identified by staff, but also review the priorities and potentially combine items, such as there was one mandatory one. I think that the tree farm, since we are contractually obligated to do something by the end of this year, we may consider moving the tree farm into a mandatory item for that reason. And there were 12 high, 10 medium, and 12 low.
Did the tree farm get even on there?
It is, yeah.
It is. Plan. Yes, tree farm management was listed as a high priority. The staff suggestion for wording was determine plan for long-term management of the tree farm recreation facility.
Where did you get that, Tracy? I don't.
It's in the packet under the work plan
Yeah, that's where I am.
item for H, and it's the SB work plan FY25. There's a spreadsheet that opens up.
The fifth
It's
one
up
down
on the screen
list.
right now too. I don't know if you can see that. But
Okay.
So the work item was just
on here, then?
tree farm management.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, thank you.
So given we have a contractual obligation to do something by the end of the year, I guess I agree that it should be mandatory. The tree farm management one, yeah.
And I'm staying nodding. So good to move to mandatory.
On the question, the first question Greg asked there on the second one, I guess my thoughts on this is that I'd like to see a plan that shows what we need and a proposal how we pay for it. That's what I'm looking for there, I guess.
Is anybody looking for anything different for that?
The one he noted, I would just say I'd like to know what we need. We've always just said we have X and they do what they can with it. I'd like to see what we actually need. What's that number?
Like asking the question of, not that it's gonna happen tomorrow, but what could be replaced to save future expenses. And I think the other thing that was kind of mentioned about the planning part of that was just making it a high priority this year, that when we come to the planning process, that what we plan for capital is not a repeat of last year. As far as the funding, when we planned on funding,
What do we need and how do we pay?
yeah, I mean, we planned on funding 800,000 and we funded 200. So just making sure that this year we're aware of what had happened and focused on a comprehensive plan of making the best we can this year for what we tried to do last year, and not having the funding again this year, and really saying, hey, we need to take $300,000 extra from whatever, you know, just having a bulletproof plan of catching up from last year and making sure that this year we have, you know, not fixing the whole problem, but just putting ourselves in a little bit better position than we were.
Yeah, and last year we had that problem with the fund balance quantity being, having an error, yeah.
So then wouldn't you, under like, so you've got capital planning and funding for future needs, and you've got public works, capital vehicle equipment, create an 8-year plan. Wouldn't that all go together? It's all part of capital planning?
Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't think we need a separate line item about, and I think it's an overreach for the select board to say that all equipment and vehicles need to be done in 8 years. I think we should let the professionals tell us.
Yep.
What the
Is he here?
replacement schedule is.
Can we ask him?
We don't have to, we didn't warn that we're gonna have a discussion about that right now, but
I don't think that should be taken off because it's just going to get buried like it has for the last 35 years.
But isn't it all capital planning, Ethan?
yeah.
Where's
not?
it been for 35
Well,
years?
I
I don't
don't
know
know.
either. I've only been alive for 27, and we've got a huge problem here in Essex.
Well, there,
So,
I don't know. I'll leave it separate.
Aaron, do we have a huge problem? Do we have a huge problem?
we can't talk about it.
well, I think,
I'm not aware that we have a huge problem, or it hasn't been communicated.
And the value of our equipment,
yeah, so
keeping equipment for
So
far
to
too long.
bring it back to the capital planning and funding for future needs, understanding that we're scrolling on me, fully identify, now that I'm paying attention to what's on the screen, fully identify capital needs and present a plan to pay for those needs. Is everybody okay with that clarification on the work plan?
Yes.
Seeing nods. So if we're going down to the public works capital, vehicle and equipment, I would offer a suggestion that if folks feel wed to including that separately, that we assess whether the vehicle needs to be replaced rather than having a blanket.
Yep, I agree.
Every vehicle will be replaced in 8 years.
Well,
All
that-
vehicles may not need to be replaced
Yeah.
within that time frame.
Just say develop a capital plan.
Can we
Develop a
make
plan.
that to be assess the equipment replacement plan with our public works director, and then we can warn it as a meeting sometime and make it an item that we're gonna
That,
work
that,
on.
that item is what we're here to discuss, so, yeah. Andy,
I
do
think
you
we
have
should let our
thoughts?
public works director do his job and make a recommendation to us, not tell him that we're gonna be involved in his decision on what to recommend.
So we're gonna take off every single goal we have that is telling the department what to do.
No,
We're gonna take off about 30 we're gonna take
I-
off about
this-
30 goals.
This one is specific to, there's,
But recreation takes care of tree farm, right?
the way,
so,
you-
so let's take tree farm off there and let them bring it back to us.
Let's let Andy respond to the question.
I'm responding to what you just said, not to what's on the page here. You said that your words were, maybe I didn't understand them correctly. I thought you were suggesting that we tell the public works director what his plan needs to look like.
Don't ask him what his plan should look like, and if it plan still fits what they need.
And I guess I don't see how that's different than having a comprehensive capital plan.
I mean, one option is to take the language that you'd propose there, fully identify capital needs, and present a plan to pay for those needs. You could even call out including the vehicle replacement schedule. I think the big picture is we can come up with the capital vehicle replacement schedule, whether it's 8 years or 10 years. I think it's now roughly 12 years, depending on the vehicle. At the end of the day, we have to present a plan to pay for it that the select board and the public are willing to accept as well. So it's, to me, this whole thing is we've got a whole team that works on capital every year. I think in the past year, we've done a pretty good job of identifying the needs and the capital replacements. The next step is what's the right time frame to pay for those things? How do we pay for those things? So I don't know if it waters it down and or calls it out if you have one item that talks to capital and specifically calls out vehicles, if that's a point of concern.
Yeah, take it off. As we get to my items and there's discrepancies, we'll just keep pulling them off. That's fine.
Ethan, are you okay with
Yeah, pull it off.
No, you
with
can't
adding in
combine
a call out to vehicle replacement schedule on this item here that talks about capital planning?
Yeah, it's very important.
Okay.
Vehicles that go out of warranty can cost you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So statutorily, isn't the capital plan supposed to come from the planning commission?
To get the exact wording, but there's supposed to be some involvement from the planning commission.
And we just figure out how to pay for it, I think. I think the select board figures out how to pay for it, and it's supposed to come from the planning commission. Clarification may be needed there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would ask Andy, how often have you seen that happen? Because I certainly haven't seen it happen since I've been on the board.
Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it's not, its statute doesn't say it should be done a different way. You can get away with anything until the judge tells you you can't, right? So.
All right, so feel free to correct me if you feel otherwise, but would folks just like to go down through and correct wording and priority? Okay. Complete recreation needs assessment. This is a town plan action. Currently has a high priority.
I would drop that.
Good.
I'm sorry, I went to a strike through of the capital plan for public works vehicles. Ethan, I saw you shake your head. I don't know if that was to me or.
I just think it's funny because all of a sudden all of these goals are the select board doing it. But when we went over all of these, each one of them had a box that said town manager, public works director, planning commission. And none of that's in here anymore. And it's like everything that I'm saying is the select board's mandating that this be done. It's not, it's a goal.
Yeah, and those
If we
were
achieve that goal, we don't achieve that goal. Those boxes aren't there anymore.
Those
yeah,
were the
because
department
those were
work
the
plans.
individual department
Those
and
were the-
committee
Right.
work plans.
So we're not, what are we, who are we assigning our goals to? Just Greg?
You let me know your goals. I work with staff to try to accomplish your goals.
Greg's the only employee we can interact with, yeah.
So, still failing to see the issue with us asking him to do things like look at the. But I just thought it was funny. We moved on.
Okay, so Greg, I think you may have noticed something different, but when I asked if the fully identified capital needs, including vehicle replacement schedules
On how to pay for them.
and how to pay for it, if that met the spirit of what you were asking, you said, so just to double check, is that meeting the spirit of what you want to make sure that we're addressing vehicle replacement schedules as part of that item?
To a certain extent, yes. Excluding, the area issues that we currently have, no. But that's fine.
Going back to the recreation needs assessment, this is a town plan action. It's identified as an action in the town plan. Is there any wording updates or priority update?
I'd suggest lowering it to medium or low, given other things that we would like to see happen.
Yeah, and we have a new director who might have some other ideas. That whole department's kind of changed.
So is moving that down to, did you say medium?
Medium.
Folks okay with that? Saying 4 nods. Determine plan for, oh, we already did the tree farm, will be moved to mandatory. Forest management plan implementation, it's currently at high. Review, update, create forest management plans for large scale public properties, begin to implement those plans.
I think that's important, especially if they want to get their Tree City designation back.
The innkeeper. Conservation
Right.
trails person,
Yeah.
trails coordinator.
I would say, given all the other work we want to do, that it should be medium. Trying to put things in context of the truly high priority stuff we want to do.
So understanding that we have a new director and we now have a formal title, deputy assistant director.
In Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Right now, there is just a director, and we are talking about how to backfill that position. He was the assistant director.
Yes,
Yes.
backfilling
Right.
the assistant director.
And as came up earlier tonight, we're looking at what is the right structure for Parks and Rec, and is that the right position to fill or not?
So, thinking about all of our values and things that we said, when is the appropriate time to update a tree management plan from 1990 and forests that the town owns that does not have the plans? Just out of curiosity.
When you have the resources to do it.
Well,
Like
this-
hiring the person to do it.
And is this also something that our Conservation and Trails Committee could be involved with for planning and updating?
But they brought it to our attention that the outdatedness, non-existence of our policies was our mission to make it a high priority. They can't set that goal. We would have to set the goal and they would have to step up to the plate. Along with town staff. That would be a new position which would specifically, the trails coordinator, which is gonna be doing conservation and trails and all of that. That goes along with GIS mapping and everything else that were set as priorities last year.
So
My thoughts.
I'm still at medium at best.
Kendall, where are you at?
I'm looking at some of the other stuff. It's really important. With your large scale properties, they get so much use and trail, it really should be doing some management. And if we make it a goal for the committee to do it, I agree that's probably the most efficient way to have it happen.
So we did move recreation needs assessment to medium. I think leaving the forest management plans, understanding that there are other people at play, and not just recreation. Sounds like that left it high. Revise fund balance assignment process to, sorry, I can't read right now. Revise fund balance assignment process and fund balance policy. This is currently a high item. Understanding that we do have the fund balance, revising the fund balance assignment process, which is something we go through each year. Is that still a high priority?
Yeah, I think the only thing I wanted to add to that was just to make sure that we looked at the fund balance policy as far as not taking leftover funds from Public Works. And probably to include the fire department as well for capital. And put it into some sort of policy where, whatever happens that year, Because that's one of the things I had talked about was the construction schedule. We had an earlier construction schedule than usual, but it could have been snowing, but the winter wasn't as bad, so they're paving roads to make sure that you're taking away from a department that's made to do something. And using that money to cover other things every single year. So, but that was when I had brought that concern up. That was how it was addressed, was to look at the fund balance policy.
We wanted to make it more automatic instead of the process that we go through each year. That's Andy.
I don't think we should remove the flexibility that we have to decide on an as-needed basis when we are informed what the fund balance is. We have the opportunity to the flexibility to use it however we choose. The only specific stipulation in there for having the 15% unassigned was largely to address concerns that were established by our auditor. And so that's the primary reason we have a fund balance policy. We can and always do adjust every year how we distribute the fund balance. If there are leftover funds in a department that they weren't able to spend, but they feel that they can spend in the following year, they often come and ask for them. I think, and I've said that 100 times before, but I think tying our hands on how we can handle fund balance by having an explicit thing that tells us that restricts us in any way other than what we have today is irresponsible. And I think I think we just continue doing what we've been doing and take this off the list.
I'll just respond to that by saying that there was a $600,000 mistake last year, which left Public Works capital negative $54,000.
But that doesn't
because
have
you were
anything to
planning
do.
on spending fund balance money that you didn't have.
That doesn't have anything to do with our fund balance policy, though. That wasn't a fund
It wouldn't
balance
have
policy.
affected Public Works if you put a change in there to make it so it doesn't affect Public Works.
We didn't have the money. The money didn't exist. So
Well, right, but there was money that was left over in Public Works last year.
if they didn't ask for it, right, they didn't get it. There's money left over in every department every year, and if they
That's
don't
my only
ask for
point.
it, it goes into fund balance, and then we get to decide where it goes. That's the way it works.
Working great.
What if you put with input from the revised fund balance assignment process and fund balance policy with input from, do you want to say directors or department heads?
That's what our fund balance policy says.
Right.
Well, obviously we don't hear from all of them though.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Who haven't we heard from, I guess?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, the only one I've ever heard from is Public Works because they didn't use it and they wanted it for summer, work. But do others have excess money in their?
Yeah, they approach
shouldn't we hear
me or the finance department, finance director, depending on the year.
Okay.
Dan and I were actually talking about it this morning, and neither one of us is really a huge fan. If there's a big need, if there's a major paving project or stormwater project that there's money left over in Public Works and we apply it, great. If it's a fire vehicle or a police vehicle that we've ordered it, there's delays in shipping, it hasn't come in yet. That's kind of just a accounting type of thing. But generally, no, we don't want to get in the habit of people underspending and then applying,
Okay.
whether it's $500 or $5,000. That's where we take the whole, if there's a fund balance, take that whole pot of money, make recommendations to the select board of where to assign that across the board. And
So the
decide that.
policy though now allows for any department head to come in if they have excess and ask the board, or they come to you.
They would start coming to me.
Okay.
And keep me honest here, that those recommendations are put forward by you, but with input from department heads on their own individual budgets and whether there's a surplus, how much, and what outstanding needs are.
Yeah, department heads can ask and say, hey, I'd like to apply X number of dollars towards such and such, and typically with the finance director and the department head and myself and deputy manager. We'll have a discussion about what makes sense and what we think is the right thing to do, and make a decision or recommendation as depending on the situation.
And we can always change it. We can always do
Yeah.
something other than your recommendation.
Correct.
Unless it's under the purchase, right? Or any leftover. No, because they could spend within their budget under $40,000
Yeah,
throughout the year.
Within a,
All they want to,
more or less, yeah.
with your approval.
Within a budget, yes,
With your approval.
yes.
So understanding that we have some flexibility in current state, do we want to make it a high priority to revise the entire process and policy?
When it was revised back in 2016, 2017, that was when it was specified in the policy that some of the fund balance would go towards tax relief. That's what I'd like to change, because it's dug us a hole, and I appreciate the flexibility of sharing between departments, but when you give back 200,000, you're just postponing an increase. So that's the part of it that I would like to revise, where the fund balance is used for one-time expenses, something that benefits the town long-term, in my opinion.
So the policy does say that if you don't designate something, it has to be used for tax relief.
Yeah, and
We never leave money undesignated. We do intentionally designate money for tax relief, but we never leave undesignated money. We've never done that since the policy's been in place. It's always earmarked for something. It may be earmarked for future tax relief because we know things are coming that are going to drive big things, and we always, yes, there's always a big argument about, yeah, it's just going to hit you the next year. So
When it was, sort of interesting times with separation to plan for that and lessen the burden, but hopefully we'll never be talking about separation again, and wouldn't be in that same situation where we would be designating for tax relief. Because, to the points that you,
okay, that's, so I'm fine.
and I say we, but I'm speaking
Yeah.
with my own.
It's just as
Voice
easy
and
as
opinion.
politicians. It's a 1 year, you designate that money and it saves, but we're digging out of that hole, so. And I've heard enough comments about, tear the Band-Aid off, stop doing it, so. Whether it needs to be high, medium, but it's important.
The revisiting of the policy.
To at least just revisit it. It was last revised in 10 years ago.
I was just going to say, I think take it off and we make decisions on as we have on a year-by-year basis based on the recommendation of staff, and anybody can certainly argue against using it for future tax relief. Anybody can also argue for using it for capital projects, and I guess I don't see the need to revise it at all.
Don?
I think it needs to. I think it needs to stay there, but it could go to a medium priority at this time.
Yeah.
Yep, sounds like medium. And coming up next, this one was a high priority, continue to increase community engagement. Question was, is there a specific
I think
goal?
we already took care. I think we
project.
already discussed that, Tracy, in the other part, didn't we? As far as
For the values, yes, but this was a specific work item. If it's one of our values and kind of the lens through which we look through everything else, do we need it as a specifically stated work item?
Well, I think it goes back to the communication piece that we had that when the community engages us, we've got to be able to reach back to communicate to them, to answer their questions or their requests or, and I think for me, and for oftentimes we hear public to be heard on things that aren't on the agenda, and then where does that go? Who has responded to them, or did any of us, respond? I think that we really need to, I suppose you could leave it to staff, but if staff took care of it, I would still like to know that, so-and-so's question got answered, or something to that effect.
And one item, because it doesn't, community engagement could mean a lot of things, but one of the thoughts that I had was having the select board prioritizing our own community engagement. So attendance at events, engaging with community members, outside of just relying on people coming to us in a meeting. That's what that means to me. I don't see it as a heavy lift for staff, but am curious how the select board sees how we engage within the community to be visible, approachable, and present outside of our own meetings. Is that a priority? Is there a better way to word that? Does anybody even agree with my thoughts on that?
I think the more you engage with the community and get out there so they have a chance to talk to you is important. Yeah. And if that's what your goal is for that, that's understandable.
Feels like campaigning to me. That's where I'm getting a little antsy about.
Excuse me.
I mean, if the
Excuse me. What are you gonna? Why is it campaigning if you? I don't look at it that way. So Chips did this presentation and he did this film at the Essex Experience. And because I was interested, I went to see it. Okay. And through that, I met a lot of different people that never came to a select board meeting, but they had, things they wanted to talk about with Chips and things that were happening in the community. That to me, I made the effort to go and listen. And I got a lot of feedback from people that I'd never met before.
I can't go to the grocery store without somebody stopping me and talking to me. So I guess that counts, right? So that's where.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little concerned about if you're trying to encourage people to run for the select board, that you have a placement or an expectation placed on them that in addition to all the meetings and all the content you have to read and understand, you're also expected to go to parades and
CCTV board.
Yeah,
we're all doing it already, and it would encourage more of it. For more.
But you don't have to be on any of those boards.
No, but I'm just saying, by allowing that to happen, it's allowing you to engage more with the community. The more you do that.
Yeah, I think it should be a personal decision of the individual select board member how much of their time they want to put into being a select board member, and not to have additional expectations put on there. And I think if people don't like and don't think I'm engaging enough, they should not reelect me. I think that's the control there. I don't know.
I'm actually fine with removing this one. I think that instead of it being a work plan, that we can self-regulate. And attending events, I brought it up more as a food for thought and discussion. But unless someone feels strongly about it staying there, I think we can just remove it.
It's an introvert's nightmare, so I'd like to see it go away.
conduct public outreach on drug and overdose issues, work with police department and Essex Westford School District to do so. And the next one, which may combine, determine uses for opioid settlement funds. Those are both listed as high priority. And the reason I say that is, you know, part of the discussion on determined uses for the opioid settlement funds was that public outreach, working with the police department, EWSD, that we discussed previously. So first, are folks okay with having that be one item? Saying nods.
No, they're different.
You want different?
One is a presentation and one is determine use for settlement funds.
I agree that they're different, and I think that the first one should be high, and that we should do that, and the determined use for settlement funds should be medium or low, because we've already decided what we're doing for FY25, and this is not an immediate. You don't need to immediately make a decision for how to use FY26 funds.
The funds aren't time bound.
Sorry.
The funds aren't time bound.
Right, and they're not time bound either. Yeah.
So discussion on public outreach high, and then the settlement funds medium.
I'm leaving them both on high because they're both important to me. You guys can.
Yeah, let's keep.
Kendall, thoughts?
I agree with Andy on this one. A high and a medium.
Are there more funds coming in? There's supposed to be more funds coming
Yeah,
in.
there are
correct?
years and years, so I think developing that.
That's why I'm saying it's
plan
important
for-
now to decide what we're going to do with them instead of waiting till they.
But we've already decided for FY25 what we're going to do with them. It's not it's an FY26 question the next time it comes up. It's my.
We still have to decide what to do with FY24.
We don't have to make a decision by the end of the year before we approve our budget for 25.
What's that?
When we come up to approve our next budget for the voters in spring of 25, we don't have to make a
January.
decision by the fall to have that prepared.
It's that they're not time bound. So if we want to include it in our base budget and fund it, or rely on use of settlement funds, we can do that during the budgeting process. Yes.
Right. I just thought the conversation was that we had during the day was that it was a priority from what Don had brought up to have it more broken down in a line item, to have it show directly what the funds were, where they went, how much they were.
Exactly.
And that didn't happen. So we were gonna work towards doing that in the future. I thought that was the point of that. Determine the uses for the settlement funds, and then when Don had brought it up, it was more about having it be clarity in our itemized budget. But
Well, in the
That's where I
uses
stand
for the
on it.
opioid settlement funds, that's sort of how we pay for the above. So I think, we're just doing straw polls here, but I think leaving them both as high is where we're at this point. Next up, 8090 Upper Main Street, Municipal Complex, leverage grant funding for the town center designation. These all sort of
Can
feel
all
like
go
the
together?
Same, and and the staff recommended language was basically that, to collapse them into three with the language you see in front of you. So is there any objection to using that language for one item and flagging it as high as it's presented?
That works for me.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Medium, update capital plan to have vehicles and equipment replaced within their useful lifespans.
It's covered by the other.
We've
capital.
kind of moved that up, haven't we?
yeah. The reason this was in there was because one of them was going to be specific to Public Works, but since it's changed, this can be removed.
Okay. Indian Brook, and I'm reading the staff suggestion for language. Thank you for wordsmithing. Update Indian Brook park fees to cover park costs to the maximum extent possible, including operational and capital needs. Greg's question, splitting this work item into the two separate tasks that were mentioned, and then the one below it. Parks and Rec fees to cover the maximum extent possible, including operational and capital needs. Do we need, we're talking about Parks and Rec as a whole, do we need to separate out and name specifically Indian Brook, or can it be covered under the one Parks and Rec umbrella? Question mark, discuss.
I would say this is a big one because that, well, yeah, I mean, that certainly was affected by the separation. And that's arguably our most visited, most used park.
You might be surprised. Saxon Hill gets an awful lot of people.
That's where the blanket one might be a better option.
Oh, Parks
You
and
look at
Rec.
all your parks, I'm not saying it's affecting them.
Yeah, so if you said if you made it so that the rec department maximizes all of it.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
that,
what he's got? Update and revert.
so from what I'm hearing is keep them separate, have them stand alone. The priority right now is medium. Is that still appropriate?
Yeah.
Seeing nods.
I
Yep.
I guess I don't see the need to have them separate. If we're going to look at all Parks and Recs fees, that includes Indian Brook fees. I'm not sure why they.
Indian Brook Park fees would be a piece of the overall Park and Rec fee schedule.
That's what I think, and it may be that something else should be a priority before Indian Brook. So let staff decide which of the Parks and Rec fees they think it's appropriate to focus on first. My thought. I think we should only have one. I agree with medium, but I think it should only be one.
Other thoughts?
Do you want both those statements? Both of those to stay separate. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying eliminate the one that explicitly states Indian Brook. Because it says Parks and Rec fees, which does include Indian Brook. That's all. That's a general statement of all Parks and Rec fees.
Excellent.
So the Indian Brook fees would be a subset of the overall Parks and Rec fee schedule.
And that allows our Parks and Rec staff to do their job and decide which fees are more appropriate to address first.
Nods.
That works as long as Indian Brook is included with other facilities. Yeah.
Everybody's still okay with medium? Medium. Develop a long-term plan to make Parks and Recreation a self-sustaining enterprise fund. Is this really the same as the above?
I was gonna say you may as well include that in the above in one item.
We're good to,
So
yep, that can go away. Creating farmers market, create community gardens. Both are listed as medium. Thoughts?
I do think they're separate.
Me too. I
Um,
think if you pulled the community, oh wait, we did. You see in our town plan, there's huge letters because of how many times it was responded. Those two words in both of those, community gardens and farmers markets, some of the largest responses in the word tree that was put in the town plan. And to speak to something a public member said to us tonight, we haven't been listening to the words of the community.
I think they should stay separate because it's going to involve two different groups probably. So.
I think given the other work that our Parks and Rec team is going to need to do, that we're asking them to do, that they should be lower priority. Not that we shouldn't do them. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do them. It just means that other things should come ahead of these. And I think we also have a new piece of property that we're looking at. We haven't started the public engagement on that. We haven't yet seen a proposal around that. And I think a lot of that, the input requests for these will come through that, and it can be covered under. I'm even tempted to remove these and let the input come. I know there's already been input, but since we're doing the 80-90 Upper Main as high priority, I think this will fall out of that and or become part of that.
So you're telling us we have to wait 5 years to get a community garden or a farmer's market because it's 5 years down the road for that?
So there's questions about how quickly you can do things and how much you can afford to do. Yeah, and so not only do you listen to what people are asking for, but we also have to be fiscally responsible with regard to what we do choose to do. We have to do what's in the best interest of the town. We've talked about that before, which doesn't necessarily mean in the high interest of the people in the town. We have to look after the corporate entity that is the town as well. So to explicitly say create these at a medium priority kind of commits us to spending money to do that we may not have. We may not have the resources to do it. I'd put these at if you want to keep them on there and keep them separate, I would put them at low priority for that reason. Keep them on the list so that they're there and we're aware of them and they get worked on as they can. And but I think there's other things that we need to do first.
I would recommend changing the words to explore the creation of a farmer's market and community gardens. I'd like to move them to high priority, because if I could have, somebody go and ask and show me where anybody's asked in this community, anybody, that if they'd be willing to donate a small piece of land for the use of either of these, and they've said no, I'd love to see that email. Because this has been a priority for years, and it's never happened, either one of them. So exploration of creating both and make it a high priority. You're not bound to creating it.
I disagree that it's been asked for years. I've never heard it asked. I've been on that board for 10 years, and it's only very recently that it's come up. Either of these have come up within Essex town.
Right, and that town plan came up well before I was even on the select board, so it has nothing to do with me. Nobody was listening. It already came up. Nobody listened.
So are folks on board with combining these, explore creation of a farmer's market and /or community gardens?
Yeah, but with the exploration, I'd like to see it as a high priority to at least explore.
Are folks' thoughts on that?
I'm okay with the language, but I'm not okay with the high priority.
It's one of the few things that we've had the public come and talk about. So we should at least explore it.
Yeah, thank you.
More priority.
High, medium.
Medium is probably fine.
On thoughts?
I'd like to leave it at medium for now. But if it gets done sooner, that would be much appreciated.
By taking out the word create, it's not
Right,
gonna happen.
we're explore.
Yeah, it's
But
just not
explore.
gonna happen now. That's the thing.
Explore creation of a farmer's market and or community gardens at a medium priority.
You can still keep them separate. Just just put the explore creation on it in both of them. If that's, I don't know if that's preferred. I don't know.
I'm an odd man out.
I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah, whichever. Sorry.
And or.
Okay.
Well, your sidewalks are coming up soon.
All right, so moving.
Greg had split them out because he sees them as different work items.
Oh, Greg.
Yep, we're good. And then there was more community events. I think we
I think
already
that
tackled
can
that.
go, yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Increased non-property
Sorry,
tax.
that can go as in a, no
The-
longer a goal, or
No,
it
the-
can go as in stays where it is?
It's already been covered.
GD, the last one,
This
on, was it 23?
Yeah.
Oh,
They-
yeah, no, you
They
were,
agreed to let me keep one of my goals, so the rest of them are gonna go.
yeah, so that one, nope. Cohesiveness and,
Next year we should put our names next to them, that way we can see the patterns.
okay, so the next one was just a general connectivity, for the definition of cohesiveness and connectivity value, connectivity can mean multiple things. Is there a specific goal or project? We did have multimodal transportation options as a work item, didn't we?
I
Mm-hmm.
think
Thought
that's
that
on
was
there, yeah.
up
We did,
higher.
yes.
So I think this one, that's just a blanket connectivity, can probably go away.
Okay.
Yep. Increased non-property tax revenues such as licensing fees allowed by charter, impact fees, parks, recreation, Indian Brook fees. With the non-property tax item, Parks and Rec, Indian Brook that we just talked about, does this still need to be a standalone item?
I thought there was one about assessing all of the fees.
There was the update Parks and Rec fees to cover cost to the maximum extent possible, including operational and capital needs. However, there was also an item around non-property tax revenue, but I think that was a long-term goal and there wasn't a specific work item tied to it. So with this, what I may offer is to take off the last, have it and impact fees and remove the Parks and Recreation and Indian Brook fees, since that's covered in the item that we just discussed
Yeah.
a few
That sounds-
items ago.
Get rid of this.
Allowed by charter and impact fees, but just remove the Parks and Recreation and Indian Brook fees.
I'd also like to propose that we change the word increase to investigate non-property tax revenues. Because we may not be able to increase our dog license fees legally.
Such as licensing fees allowed by the charter,
Yeah.
but yes.
Possible increases.
Investigate increase of non-property tax revenues, such as licensing fees allowed by the charter and impact fees.
Yep.
End of sentence. Still medium?
Yeah.
Yep. Provide ongoing support for and communication with municipal boards, commissions, and committees. Greg's comment, is there a specific goal or project within this item? My own comments on this were, it's kind of a matter of course item, but aligns more with identifying potential areas for improvement in structure or mission. We had a conversation around attendance policy type stuff earlier, thinking it maybe moved to a low priority, since it should be happening, but slight tweaks could be made. But if others feel differently, input is welcome.
I think we've already done this. We established a schedule and actually we were asked this morning for an explicit schedule, but we have talked about when we would ask for the time frame of the year that we would ask for inputs, and I think we've already done this, so I'd prefer to just take it off.
Are we gonna continue to do it?
I
Those
would
not,
like
is
to.
it
We've
long-term?
established a schedule for, I think we've done the work item associated with this. this doesn't mean, I think, that we're going to, from now on, ignore our committees. I think the
So
intention was.
we've
that
established a schedule as to when they come
we-
and report to us.
We've changed our practices, and I don't think it's appropriate to, if you have a goal in 1 year, you have to do it again, and you have to keep it on your goal list evermore.
Well, I get that, Andy, but I didn't know there was a schedule when the commissions were coming to report to us, or committees.
Greg has given it to us, gave it to us, and we approved it. It's the, before budget season starts, we have all of the committees coming through. Will have.
No, I get that. I want to know. That's a one-time deal.
No, it's
I want to
not.
know
No,
what's
no,
happening
it's every
throughout the year.
It's every year.
Yeah, once a year.
Yeah.
No, that's
That-
not what I'm asking.
That comes up a number of times, and it has come up in a number of times, and maybe I should stop referring to my experience of being on the select board, but it comes up, and the answer that has most often been given is go read everybody's minutes.
So you're going to know that I don't know. Housing Commission is struggling. It's going to be in their minutes.
If the
If they
housing,
don't
if
come
the
and tell
housing
you.
commission is struggling, they should go talk to Greg, and Greg comes to us.
Or some. I mean, I'm just saying. There's
Or
a
their
there's a
staff
breakdown here somewhere as to. I
Or
mean,
their staff person should talk to Greg.
you know,
or-
we end up having to appoint the people that come in and interview for a job, okay, or interview for a job. It's a job. It's a full-time job. Anyway, we don't know what happens. We don't know if that person's struggling. We don't know if that person fits in. We don't know if that whole committee is now working as a cohesive team. It's stuff like that, because that's what the public's gonna see. So yeah, I can, you can zoom in and watch a meeting, and if you see like Ethan, who's sleeping in his chair, and Don's not paying attention, they're not communicating issues and problems, and we don't know if their mission is accomplishing what the public wants. I guess maybe that's the best way to say it. So here's your mission statement. How has must be getting late. How has your committee accomplish this mission? I don't know. Somebody comes down to me and asks me. I couldn't, for the life of me, tell people if that certain committee or commission has accomplished their missions. No idea.
Yeah.
So is that my responsibility? I have to go and read all the minutes, and I'm going to be able to find that out, or can I just have the committee report to the select board? That is communication again.
But they will be. I mean, what we're saying is that at least once a year, those committees will be coming to us and giving feedback and reporting out on things like their work plan and whether there need to be changes in the mission, whether something is unclear.
So if there's an issue, we have to wait a year to hear about it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we
to me?
shouldn't. I mean, we have, I
Okay.
can't really go
never mind.
into this right now, but.
Nope, never mind. We'll let it go. It's just communication again. Never mind.
Can we leave it up
There you go.
to staff to make progress and provide
I think we should
updates
leave it.
through the year?
Anybody else?
Let it go. Well, there you go.
I think take it off, because I think we've done it, and I think we need to see how it works, and I'm just one vote though, right?
And I'm fine with just leaving it as is general, like matter of course, and either leaving it as medium or throwing it as low, because it's something that is done regularly. Yes, there are improvements that could probably be made.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it. Keep it at medium. It's important to have.
And so are we going to expect Greg to report on this to us quarterly as to how progress is being made against each of these goals?
There's no specific wording in there that says that.
Well, what's the purpose of these goals then, or this work list?
There's all the others.
No, the whole list. Why are I'm trying to pare down the work that Greg has to do too, because he's going to have to report on every one of these things to us. So if we've already done the work, why are we keeping it on the list? That's my point.
Well, and I think where I'm at is it's not just we've done the work and we're done with it. It's providing that ongoing support and reevaluating whether it's really meeting the needs, and readjusting if it's not. Understanding that we're still kind of new into the committees coming in and work plans and our breakfast this morning, feedback mechanisms, things like that. Which is why I say, you know, perhaps moving it to a low priority, since it shouldn't be time intensive.
Yeah, if you want to keep it up there, please drop it to low. Yeah.
Everybody okay with low? Keeping it?
Yeah. I mean, if the committees and stuff are doing fine, then there's no need for an update, so to speak, but it's hard to hear people come in like planning and say, well, there's not a quorum or whatever. I mean, it's just, is there, and I know that the planning commission isn't our purview, but some of the other committees we've had people leave, it's like just an update.
One of the things that was talked about this morning too, and maybe this is as an aside, Don, was there was a discussion about getting information to Tammy, the chairs or when they know there's a newsletter coming out, if there's information they want to share. So they're not going to say, oh, we're having problems running meetings. I guess that's a different problem. It's a different.
Yeah, but it's
thing.
still, you know, going support for communication. Pursue housing initiatives, particularly with help and reporting from the Housing Commission. In keeping with our earlier conversation on long-term goals and understanding that we still need a report back from the Housing Commission to identify the specific work items that would be associated with that. Can this come off? And, you know, I think it kind of falls under ongoing support and communication with committees, commissions, for them to come back and let us know what they need. Does that make sense? Ethan?
Didn't we make it a goal that we were gonna have a house for everybody that wanted to come to Essex?
An overarching value, yes.
Right.
Part of the inclusivity. But we do have a housing commission that's working on recommendations as far as how we get there.
Right.
And without that feedback from our own housing commission, there's nothing really specific for us to do in the coming year until we get that feedback.
Right, but none of this list is for us to do. It's for it'll be a medium priority for Greg to make sure that the staff person is getting the feedback that they need to make a recommendation to make an action that goes towards the goal. I don't think there's anything that specifically has to be done. We just want Greg to make sure that there's something happening in the means of that description.
I'm okay with leaving it on, but I'd prefer to drop it to the low priority.
Waiting. Is everybody okay with that? Leaving it? Putting it as low? Can you work on recommendations from the Charter Review Committee, decide whether or not to propose any, this is medium, I mean, the Charter Committee, when they come back to us, they're going to be considered either way. So what are folks' thoughts on priority and this item?
I'd like to see it move to low.
Same concept as above?
I'm just curious, if it's a low priority, why did we bring the committee back together?
Well, it's, I think, because we're still, like the Housing Commission, we're kind of in a waiting game for them to come back to us with something to react to.
We will have it back to you by July 1st. Is that the goal, Tammy? Is that what we said?
Well, we added some work.
Yes, yeah. That's why I said, I thought it was June, but that's why I just changed it to July.
Yeah, our initial goal.
Yeah. Right.
And low priority doesn't mean zero priority. If you take it off the list, then.
I mean, that's happening whether it's on your list or not. You're going to get it back. You're
right.
Like,
Are folks okay with low with the same thought process that it's coming back to us anyway?
I would just put no priority on it, not a NA,
And take it off the list.
or make it mandatory because
NP.
it's gonna be on the, any changes will be on the 2025 ballot. I mean, the making that a low priority just seems so funny. You have a committee working on it that they're gonna bring you recommendations for, and you're not gonna prioritize it. You know what's gonna happen. Some of these things might not happen. That's gonna happen. Farmers market, it's not gonna happen.
So
Right.
understanding that,
Other things aren't gonna happen.
with the identification that we should have something in front of us by July and we will have something to react to, should we leave that as medium then?
I'd rather see it low or take it off, but
Just take it off then, because the priorities obviously don't mean anything. You know you're doing that.
I
We know we're doing the budget too, so I guess the budget's not on here, so I'd take the budget off, or take that off.
the budget's not on there. Part of me says to leave it on there and put it at low priority, just so that we acknowledge that it is at least important enough to be on the list. As I said before, low is not zero. But we've been here a long time.
Yeah, charter committee, stay.
Wherever you like. The work's getting done, so I thought.
Right, and that, I guess that's kind of my
Yeah, okay.
thought process is the work is gonna get done anyway, so it's,
And we're working with a staff member that keeps Greg updated, so I would think that I'm assuming she does, but, So I would just let it go. It's being done, don't even worry about it, it's gonna come to you when it's ready, so.
okay, so we're just leaving it as it is right now. Improve layout, I will go ahead and say, I think we can just remove this one. I didn't know that there was a decoder ring. I think maybe advertising the decoder ring would be helpful.
Oh, that'd be good, probably, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, it might be in that book.
Yeah, probably. Is everybody okay with just taking that one off?
Mm-hmm.
I check warrants. Improve visualization and availability of data, especially to help inform decision making.
And what was this for?
What's that? And this was around, like, my thought process on this was that we do have information, but it's not collated, collected in one centralized location where people can self-serve, slice and dice, nor is that available for us to really drive our decision making. I mean, we hear in memos and staff reports and recommendations to support, but I think this may more align with a long-term goal rather than just in the next year, but I understand that we've already approved the long-term goals.
So they're not quite the same, they're a little different, is that what you're
Which one?
Your data visualization, your two, it says continually improve access and accessibility of information and documents. It says the same thing below it.
Yeah, the hire someone focused on
guess-
systems and analysis, I would like to see that removed, because
Okay,
that's telling Greg who to hire, why to hire.
okay, yeah.
So unless anybody screams, that can just be removed.
Yep.
But it's the improved visualization and availability of data, especially to inform decision-making, that we're talking about now. It's currently at low priority.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts, input, opinions?
That's fine.
Okay, I'm seeing nods. Review tax sale policy, update and codify it as necessary, understanding that we did have the
All done.
policy review. Can we remove that one?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing nods. Review policies annually. I think we're good with that, right?
Yep.
That's already included. Review and if necessary, update paving plans, gravel road plans. Present plans to the select board each year for public review. This is currently at low.
I don't know who that was, Ethan or Kendall. It was
Oh,
one
no.
of them.
That was Kendall's, but if you say it was mine, they'll get taken off. So
No, no,
don't-
no, 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 no.
Don't get anybody confused.
Thoughts, input? Leave it as is.
Can I ask a question? What the intent here is? What the intent is? Are we trying to help Public Works prioritize decide what to pave, or is this just for? Are we just asking for a way to share information about what will be paved?
That pretty much.
'Cause I found this online.
There we
This
go.
is a couple of years ago, but I don't know, we've at least done this before to say, and I don't know what our, how do we let people know that their street's gonna be paved? My street's gonna be paved this year. I found that out because we approved the bid.
This is a good goal to have.
So, yeah, and the other, the question though is this is only the summer paving. It doesn't say, and this is a 2021 one, it doesn't, I found it online, I just Googled, or I just put paving in the search bar on our website, and this, one of the documents that came up. I don't, I think I've seen a map that shows pavement conditions in town, right? We have that?
Yep.
But I don't know that we have what maybe Kendall's asking for. That's why I was asking for clarification, what we're looking for, a thing that says this road's gonna be paved this year, this one this year, this one this year, this one. We do, or do we have
I
that?
have seen that before.
Okay. Okay, and so that, is it just the availability of that information that?
Yeah,
You're
it's
looking for.
mostly just the available, so if anybody's curious, like that summer paving plan, oh, I might be hitting my road this year.
So maybe this line item needs to be communicate road paving plans. Or, I don't know if there's a gravel road piece that would go in there too. Is that what you're asking for?
I mean, it's mostly just information. That's another one of the items that I get asked now and then is when's my road gonna be paved? When's the culvert's gonna be replaced? If there was just a place to easily find that information that the board presented each year, or was it was really more publicized?
Right,
As a
so
goal.
publicize or post, annual
Yeah, I mean, even that one
paving,
page.
road maintenance plans.
Yeah.
So is this a notification that goes to people that are on those roads so they know that they're gonna be happening? Because it talks about, please don't park in the way and all that stuff.
It was, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You got that one?
Publicized annual road paving and maintenance plans.
You had also mentioned culverts. in your
Yeah, well,
words.
I imagine that Public Works has a lot of, they do all kinds of assessment of stormwater structures, culverts, all this stuff. And if that was available along with these plans, I mean, you can find it if you really want to look for it, but.
Is that
Well,
information
they
available?
put down
too?
the roads they're gonna close though. I mean, I saw one today on Front Porch Forum that Old Colchester Road or 2A or something's being closed for culvert repair, so
Yeah.
if people, although there again, not everybody has Front Porch Forum, but
Right.
we don't have any other way really of reaching out to let people know that, so.
Also, if we have a list, it won't include state roads, because they have their own schedule. Yeah, right. Same with culverts, yeah. Do we have a culvert schedule?
Yeah, we do. We do have a lot of the culverts now and a lot of our stormwater infrastructure is this will probably be the last year for televising and assessing. Then we're gonna go through and prioritize all the culverts that need to get replaced. We have all the cross culverts out on some of the back roads. They do have a priority, but we don't necessarily have a place to identify which year, because sometimes it's based off of what storm event it's this with a microburst up on, say, Osgood, and then we got to go play with all those culverts for that summer. So it's kind of, we can't say we're going to be doing this culvert this year. Have to kind of prioritize culvert in it. Like, we do have a list. We do have the assessment of a lot of those culverts.
Yeah, it's mostly just information. I'm not looking to change anything or have the board change stuff. It's to provide the information to the public.
So do culverts fall under maintenance plans, or should they be called out specifically? Including culverts, there we go.
It does now.
Thank you.
We good with this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Pursue the installation of a crosswalk on Route 15 at Saybrook and the ice cream shop. Is currently low.
Nothing can be done because that's a state highway, I was told, so.
So there is one in front of JP's though, so it was done there. So maybe we shouldn't give up hope, but I don't have a lot of hope.
Somebody's gonna get hit by the ice cream. I mean, because they run across from the sidewalk to the ice cream shop and then hit the bike path going down through Staybrook. It's like somebody's gonna just. I don't know. It's ugly, but
Ethan?
anyway.
So as I was driving here tonight, I was actually thinking about the sidewalks, because right here at Brickyard, there's a non-illuminated crossing, the Brickyard, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh, there's one. They're all along. They're down. Even the one we got the signs changed at by having a letter written to V-Trans. So I think at minimum, even if this is a low priority, I think we keep it as a low priority and we send a letter to V-Trans. But then we could, if V-Trans says absolutely not, they say absolutely not. So at least we tried. Because like the one with me and Greg and Aaron got them to change all the signs down on Irene Drive. Same thing. I mean that's 128, 50 mile an hour zone. Well, 40. It was a 50-40. Now it's a 40-40. But I think you got a better chance on 35 than.
So what, and again, keep me honest here, but what I'm hearing is leave it, keep the low priority. Okay. Study and propose solutions to minimize truck traffic on Sand Hill. It's currently low priority. I believe it is on the UPWV project that kicking off this summer.
I think that falls in the same category as the charter committee. It's already in progress, and we're going to give a report, right?
Okay. Leave it at low. Plow an additional section of sidewalk using new staffing or contract services. Repeat with one new section each year. This is low priority currently.
I think this is something that should be decided at each budget session. Not something that we establish as a goal. Because some years we may not be able to afford to add any more sidewalks.
Agreed.
Or do we want to?
Yeah, we'll work through the budget.
There you go. Provide an update on the traffic light schedule for Vermont Route 15.
Same thing. I think that's just.
Andy's already got a Andy sent me a copy of it. It's already in work. It's just been delayed multiple years.
Yeah, there was this. My understanding is there was a system installed and it didn't do what it said it was going to do, and so rather than go through and rip it all out and try to put in another one, because they're going to redo the traffic lights in FY 26 and 27. Am I wrong? No comment.
The last I knew, you're talking specifically the Sand Hill 15 intersection?
No, we're talking about coordinating, having the traffic lights on 15 coordinate so that you get a green light as you're going through instead of stop, stop, stop. There was a system that the regional CCRBC, the Regional Planning Commission, was trying to coordinate getting it installed. The state installed it, and it didn't work.
And it didn't perform as...
Did not perform as yeah. And so all that equipment is up on the poles, but then somebody had to go take it all out, put on a new one, and then it's a triples the cost, right? So they're waiting till the next time they put new lights up, which is
Did
2
we
years.
want to leave this item? Do we want to take it off?
I thought there was a question about what he said. I thought it was Alan Martin 15, but maybe it's Sand Hill.
It's
Wasn't it supposed to be both of them?
yeah. They're supposed to both get. I thought they're supposed to get a light, aren't they?
Eventually.
And it was supposed to be a coordinated.
Right.
Yeah, I know it was
Oh,
supposed to
Martin,
be
but Sand
coordinated.
So the Sand Hill, this is the thing, it's a Regional Planning Commission thing.
Yeah.
That intersection, it had been delayed, but then they found out that it was part of the federal highway safety thing, so they pulled it back in, so it's back in FY '26. It had been pushed out to '27, now it's back in '26.
Just Sand Hill.
The end of Sand Hill is, right.
Sand Hill 15.
Yeah, if Alan Martin's getting one, it's much further, it's further out.
The seeing that's being done, we don't really need the yeah.
And it's just a state highway, we don't have it. We have very little control over it.
Yeah, it was just an update.
The traffic light schedule
Good.
we're done with. Propose a long-term plan to allow the police department to contract out services to other municipalities. This is currently low.
I don't think this should be on
I don't think so either.
How come?
there. 'Cause I think we're already negotiated a bad enough deal with the people that we're serving now, so. Should focus on renegotiating that before we try and negotiate with anybody else for a service that we don't have the staff or vehicles to provide.
Okay, that makes sense. So you want to take it out?
Yeah.
And it could fall under non-property tax revenue.
Yeah.
Discussion.
That's what I
True.
suggest.
Alright, so we'll take that one out. Bring youth and younger voices, other younger voices into local government, low priority.
Can't object to that.
You could.
No, but I won't.
Tell me
Probably
what
one.
you're thinking.
It's getting late.
We can't even get older voices.
Well,
How are you gonna get younger voices?
alright, and the last one, explore and create private-public partnerships and opportunities. Currently low.
I don't know whose that was. I don't even know what that is.
It was mine.
Could it be folded into the 80/90 upper main?
Well,
Is it a
it's not,
separate thing?
yeah, it's not specific to that.
Okay.
Like, there would be that opportunity, and I think there's reference to public-private partnerships in that one, but, you know, like partnering with WEE or other, areas, organizations, private businesses for,
Or Lawrence Farm?
well, I won't comment on that. But that's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it there then.
Yeah, donations and partnerships are way different.
And then all of the rest of the items were NA, which I believe are the ones that we nixed at our last session. So with that, we are through our work plan items. Is there,
Okay.
are you curious about doing a sum on the individual items, or?
I could do that.
Or, you know,
So just for the public record, since there was just a comment made about it,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I brought over $160,000 worth of equipment to the Essex Experience, or the Explore Essex, and they knocked down my sponsorship fee to $25, and I had offered to pay the full price, and I was told because I brought over $160,000 of equipment that kids took pictures in and played on, and everybody had a blast. And at both that event and town meeting day, at that event, me and my wife stayed and helped clean up. And at town meeting day, I stayed and cleaned up while everybody else left. I just wanted to put that out there when comments like that are made. Thank you.
I think I missed something.
Yeah, there was a comment made about public-private partnerships, like with Lawrence Family Farms. So I just I was referring to that comment.
Joke.
Yeah, I don't take jokes like that in humorous manners.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Very
Just
sorry.
wanted to clear the record.
Yep, sorry. That was inappropriate.
So can I make the motion to select board approve the,
We get public comment.
oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
comment.
sorry. Whoop.
Sorry. Try to be as quick as I can. I'm going to ask you to revisit three things. Forest management plans. Our forests are not unlike our vehicles. They need maintenance. Otherwise, they lose their productivity and they lose value. I wouldn't underestimate the need to do that. We have forest management plans in our town that are basically being ignored. We have one that was produced in 2020 for Saxon Hill. Those forests are mostly plantation. They need management. The tree farm has a forest management plan. There are forests there. You may not know that, but there are forests there. The farm management group wasn't aware there was a forest management plan, although it is being executed. It is being executed by the Center for Technology and Education. They didn't know. They weren't sure if there was any money being drawn off. They had no idea. The forest management plans need to be a high priority. They don't need to be done by the select board or even staff. That can be delegated, but they're very, very important. Don't underestimate them. Just think of a vehicle that doesn't get taken care of. No oil changes. What happens? Second, we live in a democracy here. The town plan was voted on. It's not just an item that somebody said, let's just do this. It was a lot of public input, and it was voted on by the town. I'd like to think that the voters of the town, when they vote for something, it actually gets respected. They wanted community gardens. We have land to put it on. That's going to sit there for I don't know how long. They want farmers markets. Should be volunteer driven, mind you, but they've asked for this. It should be staff supported. I think that when the people of the town vote for something, you should do it. Unless it's a crazy thing, of course. Finally, the fund balance policy. You need to make that a higher priority. The current fund balance policy is an affront to taxpayers. You take money that was approved to be spent a certain way, and then if there's a surplus, you spend it another way without voter approval. It's not right. That needs to be revisited. There are ways to still accomplish your goal and get voter approval. I think those three things should be a higher priority. Thank you.
Don't see any hands online. It's the pleasure of the board. Currently, based on what we talked about for a while now, we have 2 mandatory items, 6 high, 7 medium, and 9 low.
And the fund balance one was removed, right? I think the only one I got was
Fund balance is
on
medium.
there and it's at
medium. Okay.
The
Sorry.
forest management was high still.
Okay.
Forest management still high?
Yep.
So we're good there. Okay.
Perfect.
No. I'm looking at it going, I don't think we moved it, but that's all right.
Change it to medium or something like that. I should have asked for each one first. Sorry.
So we should be good.
So with that, what's your pleasure?
I just said that's what I just had it. I make the motion to select board approve the FY25 work plan
As amended this evening?
as amended this evening. Sorry.
Thanks,
Yes.
Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. Does anybody feel the need for more discussion on this item?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Discussion about stipend survey results.
I have town events list. What is that?
Town events list.
I had included that as part of the work plan.
Oh, okay, so that wasn't something,
Oh.
okay, because it popped up on my agenda side, so it was like, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Like, I don't know, it's not on mine. Stipend survey results. In your agenda, there was a memo and results from the stipend program survey that went out. This is just discussion of that survey results. Again, discussion only.
Looks like the survey stipend program is a good program to keep.
I didn't get that impression, but okay. I gotta go look at something. Wait. For this one.
Other thoughts, discussion?
Well,
Well done.
the purpose of the stipend was to encourage people to join committees, especially family people, so that it would pay for a babysitter so they could be to the meeting. And yet here it says, did the availability of stipends influence your decision to join or continue serving on a board, commission, or committee? And it said, no, it did not influence my decision. That's the biggest green. 23 of the however many responders. And I think we maybe it's not as the stipend. Maybe we need to revisit. Boy, Don, sorry, revisit the purpose of the stipend, because one, we were hoping to get younger people involved, more community members involved, and we were to help out. And this and half the time now, when you're on a meeting, or you don't even know if that person, their name appears, but are they really sitting there in the Zoom? I mean, are they participating? Are they really a part of that committee? Or I don't know how to explain this. Does that? It's hard to see a name and not a face to know that if that person is actually participating in the committee. Okay, that's one of my problems with this. My other is I don't really see where it's made any increase in the amount of people applying for commission and committee positions. Because that's what we wanted to increase our pool of people, get more interest in it. I don't really think that happened with the stipend. Am I wrong? I don't know. That's just what I see.
I think that as long as one person participates who wouldn't otherwise been able to participate, then the program is worth it. There are 3 that say that they did. One said, yes, it influenced me to continue, and the other one says, yes, it influenced me to join. There's 3 that fall into that category. People have whatever reason they have for choosing to collect that $50. Since this didn't go to, or we didn't get a response from every single committee member, we don't know how many are not receiving it. There are plenty of people who say, well, I'm going to participate. I don't need it. I don't want it. I assume there are people who get it because it's available. Taking advantage of the opportunity. And then there are plenty of people who say, it's a really nice thing to recognize my time. It may not convince them that they should be on the board. Well, I guess we're discussing whether or not to have the thing, which isn't really, is that the intent here?
Just to discuss the results.
I think it, I think it's, I appreciate that the people were able to respond with comments saying that they recognize how they feel thanked for their well, that's the right word, or recognized, I guess, is really the word I'm looking for their contribution to the town.
Any other comments or input on the survey?
I was most struck by number 7, where it said, "Do you believe the stipend program is an effective incentive for retaining volunteers?" And everybody except 3 people said yes, basically. So that's a pretty high percentage. And then in number 9, where it said, what would you rate the impact on it in volunteer agreement, engagement? You had 5 positive, 11 positive, neutral, and there were no negative or negatives. So that says that even if we're not actively finding a lot of volunteers, the folks that are getting on the board are saying, oh, okay, maybe it'll keep me here for a little while.
Our next item is for executive session, so moving along to the reading file. Over to the board.
Oh, I want to thank the team that put together the coffee talk about reappraisal. That was really good.
Thank you for including the link to the YouTube recording in the minutes as well. And also thanks to Daniel Parkins for serving on the Energy Committee. Anything else on the reading file? Hearing none. We will be coming back from executive?
Quite possibly, yes.
Okay. Somebody have the...
I move that the select board make the specific finding that premature general public knowledge of the town's position concerning ongoing contract negotiations and labor relations agreements with employees would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Andy. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts and labor relations agreements with employees pursuant of 1 VSA 313A, 1A, and 1 VSA 13A, 1B, to include town manager, deputy manager, public works director, and HR director.
Could you change deputy manager to assistant to the manager, please?
Assistant to the manager.
Thank you.
Your Dawn, is there a second? Second. You, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Do we want to discuss appointments or leave that off for this evening? We don't need to make a motion to discuss that in well, we don't need to discuss that tonight.
Is that on your agenda for the first meeting in June?
Should be.
Yeah, there'll be some more interviews on the
June
first
3rd.
meeting in June, and then you'll have your decision points at the second meeting in June. But
My only
something, yeah, if you
concern is
could-
there was one opening on a committee that they were looking for help on.
If you want to talk about it, make the motion, so we can talk about it.
Never mind.
I'd
No,
say go
it's
ahead.
just gonna be long enough. I'll let it go.
I'd say go ahead and make the motion if you don't
Yeah.
mind me interjecting.
Alright, hold on. You got it?
No.
I move that, I'll go ahead and, I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss the proposed public official appointment in accordance with 1 VSA, section 313A3, and to include the town manager
The assistant.
and the assistant to the town manager.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. We are now in